No, SL's like, there's cooked chicken in the fridge. Please don't eat it because I'm using it for quesadillas. And I'm like, why are you telling me that now? Of course I ate some.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Powered by Sports Interaction. Wanna bet?
The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake.
Just ripping my Tylenol daytime cold because I'm never not sick. When you have a toddler, you're never not sick.
Leo has a stuffy nose, so it's a matter of time.
Well, okay, so here's the thing.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you just know, right? It's coming.
I feel like I've been bitten by a zombie and I'm just waiting.
See, if you have kids, you'll understand this. If you don't, get ready. Because if you ever decide to have kids, you'll get rid of it. It's a faucet. The nose is a faucet. It's not there to be dry. It's there to be, it's like a dog. It's wet all the time.
Yeah, no, they're there to look like they have flesh-eating disease on their face at all times.
What's funny is when they have no idea how to wipe it, and it just runs everywhere.
Yeah.
When they're not at the age where they can just like clean it off with their wrist or their shirt or anything.
everybody does that.
Let it go.
They violate your instincts as a loving parents because they come over to you to hug you and you're like, oh, and you accept the hug and they purposely just wipe their nose on your clothes. You know how many videos I've actually had to reshoot? Especially for Sportsnet, because I've gotten several clips into the video only to realize, oh, my entire left shoulder is disgusting.
You get used to like a permanent mucus white stain on your right or left shoulder.
No, I've actually had videos like that. It's just like, okay, I either have to reshoot the entire thing or we just publish with my yucky shoulder.
I think people would
notice.
People would love it.
Oh, they would point it out.
They would love
They
it.
would point it out. If you get a haircut, they point it out. It's crazy.
Let me give an extra promo to Manscaped for the nose hair trimmer.
Oh,
That's
were they telling you?
Well, it wasn't the nose hair they were telling me about. It was the bat in the cave they were telling me about because I lift my face up when I talk sometimes, and that gives you a view right up my nostrils.
Yep, absolutely.
Big old booger.
Please don't use your Manscaped products to pick your boogers.
No.
Oh no, he's picking the stuff that keeps the boogers in there.
You blow your nose, you clean it all out, and then you use your
Steve,
whatever it's called to shove it up your nose
it's not a booger picker.
Hey. Listen, don't tell me what to do with my own property.
You ever get?
Don't tell me what to do.
That's fair.
You ever get like a booger that you're like, you can't get in there and get it? Like it won't blow out, and then you're like, okay, well, it's picking time, and you can't even get out there and pick it. I'm like, I need a nasal vacuum that goes. Sucks it all out.
No, where's
Manscaped on that?
Whenever I encounter that, I just go, Jesse, can you pick this for me? And then he reaches 3 feet into my skull with his fingers, and, just picks it right up. And then he eats it.
I'm making fun of my long fingers.
I don't think your fingers would fit in my nose, man. You got big hands, and I got tiny hands.
Yeah, but I'm Slender Man.
You are a Slender Man.
Yeah, they're not like thick.
Yeah, they're not thick. I got a couple cuts on my fingers. So ignore that.
Oh my god, my hands are so small.
Look at these two cuties. Hey, speaking of cuties,
let's compare it.
A big shout out to Marie-Philippe Poulet and Laura Stacy. They got engaged, so congratulations to them. What did Liz Knox call it? The royal wedding?
I think it was Ailish Forfeit.
Oh, it was Ailish.
The royal wedding.
It is the royal wedding. She's right. She's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
It's so fantastic. Good for them. Happy for them. And we were talking off camera. Whenever Liz and Corral talk about Marie-Philippe Poulet, they just call her Pooh. Which is the best hockey player ever for Pooh. Canada. Pooh.
Yeah, because Corral's like very good friends with her and same with Liz, and that's just what everybody who's in her circle calls her, is Pooh.
I would get a 29 Team Canada jersey with on the nameplate just a poop emoji.
And we all know who you're referencing.
They should sell those.
Yeah.
I want one.
That's a great idea.
They should 100% sell them.
Why are they not?
I don't know.
Oh, man.
I want the Pooh jersey.
Give me the Pooh.
Give me the Pooh. We need the Pooh.
Say it again.
Congrats to Pooh. Give me the Pooh.
There you go.
You're off center on your camera.
Are you?
But that's okay.
Am I?
Yeah.
I need the Pooh.
Next Olympics rolls around, you got to say that. I need the Pooh.
I need the Pooh. That should be the chant.
Special.
Pooh.
Pooh.
Pooh. Pooh.
Pooh. Poo, 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 poo.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Into it.
Special shout out on top of this to Laura Stacy because she is from Mississauga.
Yeah.
Where
less-
I was raised.
The less cool end of Toronto.
Nuh-uh.
By the way, Mississauga, bigger than Winnipeg. So anybody that tells you that they couldn't fit another NHL team in here, they for sure. Yeah.
Mississauga, I think, is number 5
Yeah.
in the country.
Yeah. It's almost, if it's not a million, it's almost.
Oh my God, it's a million for sure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think.
Like they're huge. It's definitely, listen, I love the fact that we don't have to fight with other GTHA people. About,
not a million.
Not a million. 750?
828 as of 2017.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah. Aw.
I love the fact that we have uninterrupted Leaf fans everywhere, but at some point there's going to be a split. At some point there's another team coming.
I've been wanting this for so long. It makes so much sense to have 2 fucking NHL teams in Toronto.
Yeah.
Like every pro sports market in the big 4 have 2 teams in the biggest markets. LA has got 2 teams in baseball, basketball, football. They have fucking 80 teams in California.
They basically do in hockey.
They basically
Anaheim's not.
No. I think California.
Would we call them the Toronto hockey team of Mississauga, like the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim?
That's the equivalent. Is putting a team in Mississauga is basically the Kings to the Ducks. It's not far off.
Okay. I don't want to make a definitive statement on that because a bunch of Californian people are going to get really mad at you if you're incorrect about
Californian.
What are you doing?
Excuse me, you don't clearly know how the highway system works in California.
Mississauga is like a distinct suburb of Toronto.
Yes.
Right? They're a two.
Take the Allen over to the 401.
No, you went the wrong way.
I know. I just
Yeah, no, that you're going to Yorkdale and I'm taking the Allen. No, you're taking the QEW back to Mississauga and maybe hop on the 403 if you're going a little north Mississauga. But it's a direct suburb of Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I don't think Anaheim looks at themselves as the same way as LA proper.
Well, I have some news for Anaheim.
The point is,
I have some news.
Chicago's got the 2 baseball teams. Like New York's got every team times 2.
Yeah.
Like why can't Toronto, in a giant population metropolitan area here, have 2 hockey teams?
We will call them the Toronto Poo. They will be the Poo. Jesse, what do you think of the Poo? Where are we at on the
What
Poo?
do you think if there was a team in Mississauga, what would you call it? Like Jesse, you're from there. What's
The Nordiques.
the Nordiques?
The Mississauga
Coyotes.
and it needs to speak to the nature surrounding Mississauga. So the Mississauga Rockies.
Oh, I like that. I like that. What about
Mississauga Golden? Shields.
people from Mississauga like Jesse, known for being aggressive. What about the Mississauga Thrashers?
The Mississauga Pass on the Rights.
What the hell is that?
That's the national friggin' activity. The national pastime.
What do you mean?
Mississauga.
Pass on the rights. I don't.
Passing on the right.
Oh,
Yeah, people love sitting
that.
in the left lane going fucking 85 kilometers an hour.
and it's when you hit the west end of the city. It's true.
Oh yeah, no,
It's weird.
Nobody can drive in the GTA. It's the worst place on earth.
No, I will say, as a biased East Ender, there's something about Yonge Street that the second you go west of it makes you lose all ability.
No one can drive.
No one can drive.
No, it's,
Dude,
the
it's-
left lane is I'm gonna hang out there going 85 in the fucking on the QEW, and everybody's got to pass me on the right. It's ridiculous.
We're now getting away from Mississauga. Every time I go and visit my family in Woodbridge, surprised that I have family in Woodbridge, but every time I visit them, I just take my life in my hands and just do a little sign of the cross and hope I survive.
I know going north in Toronto, that's ugly.
Horrifying.
Ugly driving.
I've never driven in New York City. The worst city I ever drove in was Montreal in traffic.
Oh, that's
Montreal
bad.
is fucking bonkers.
Especially because they have so many potholes,
Yes,
and it makes everything 10 times worse.
Oh, yeah,
New
it's
York has
great.
intact streets, and you also can't go fast enough to be in danger.
Well,
Montreal,
Montreal, you're always in danger. Now I felt a lot better. So the first time I drove through Montreal, I was like new to driving, so that was part of it. And all the signs are in English and French, thank God.
So many one-ways.
A lot of one-ways.
Like Hamilton in that way.
When we were there last year for the draft, it was a lot easier because I have a big, stupid truck now, so everything's easier.
I love your
But I had a tiny little Subaru the last time, and it was like, I was like, oh, someone's going to kill me.
The good news about your Subaru is everyone could see you from like space.
Yeah, it was yellow, bright yellow. Listen, I know you're probably in here looking for hockey, and I just want to say this. What a freaking game last night.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And you know what I the first thing I noticed, Steve, you touched on something at the beginning of the playoffs that I think that we have not made enough about. Articles need to be written about this. What's the thing that everybody says about the atmosphere in Scotiabank Arena? Because how is this about the Leafs?
It's quiet.
It's quiet. It's quiet. It's too quiet. And they always say that Toronto fans are loud or that they don't care or it's all a bunch of suits. And that was the case when the Leafs sucked. But I can tell you, we were at a playoff game, Jesse. It was loud as fuck. And everybody's wearing a Leaf jersey, including the suits. Like you could see their shoulder pads underneath it. Yeah. But they were wearing them. And it was loud. But the one thing I noticed watching Dallas fans last night, and I got hats off to them, is the fact that they don't give a fuck where Dallas stands in the series. They're in the game. They're in the now.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason for that is Dallas has seen recent success. They went to the finals. They missed the playoffs. Then they're back in I think the second, third round last year, and then back to the third round this year. This is a good team that has had success, that has won playoff rounds, and Dallas fans know what it's like to lose a Stanley Cup. So I don't know, losing a conference final, that's peanuts. That's nothing. And they were at it all game long. Toronto Maple Leaf fans, if things go slightly awry, go, everybody hold your breath. Hold your breath.
Game 5 against Florida.
Silence.
There was a bit of an air of dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. Whereas the Stars are like, fuck yeah, we still have life.
Yeah.
That's all we're agreeing aggressively.
Yes.
I'll die on the hill that jersey's fine. I know you hate it.
It's bad.
I think right now,
It's Crayola jersey. It's Crayola.
in the conference finals, we have 4 of the best in-arena markets in the league. Carolina was unreal these playoffs. Florida, CJ spoken about this on a personal level because he was down there for the Leaf series. Florida has been unruly in that stadium. And for people dogging them for not showing up and buying tickets like that, they've shown up and they've gotten the tickets. And they've been loud.
Yeah.
Can I just say, if you can't sell out the third round, go home.
What are you talking about?
Of course, the building's packed and loud in the third round.
Well, the Senators.
But that's the only thing I'm judging on right now.
No, I know.
These 4
It's just,
teams.
the criticism has been, Tuesdays in November are sparse. And you need to show up in Tuesdays in November on account of the league as a business.
Yeah.
And I know that's you must be fun at parties way of looking at it. But, I mean, the valid criticism that Panthers fans don't go during the regular season is true.
Well, I think
that my nose is tingling because that was a giant dump on being happy about fan base.
I
Your
think
nose tingles when someone farts?
Yeah, because it's not feeling right. So they got a little tingle of the smell.
Like it tingles in what way?
In that, that's gross.
Like if you accidentally get like Irish Spring soap in your nose, like that kind of.
No, that'd be weird.
No,
Yeah.
right. So I'm trying to. Is it like a buzz?
I think you're focusing on the wrong thing, and
I'm not.
You should be focusing on the giant dump you took on the fan base.
I will hold this show hostage until I find out.
I think Vegas. I've been
throw out your prep.
I was there last year in February. The stuff they do pregame is some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen at a hockey game. They have a parade that they have that to the arena.
Oh, that's
with a
so
marching
cool.
band, and then they have just a whole pregame entertainment thing. It's unreal, and then the atmosphere is great. And then, like you said, Dallas is on fire last night. So I think we've got 4 great in arena experiences right now.
Yeah. I think the Panthers thing is
87%.
It's unfair now. You can't take shots at the Panthers now. You could in the past, but listen, what did the Panthers give their fans to cheer about for 30 years?
That's fair.
Like they got into the league, Stanley Cup final, didn't win another round until 2 years ago.
The wildest stat is still they never won a series with Roberto Luongo.
Mm-hmm.
This is the furthest they've gone with Luongo as part of the organization.
You build history and you build hardcore fans
the
through
front
winning.
office.
You gotta
like
win.
that's the only way you
Yeah.
you get these fan bases is by winning, and they're doing it after how many years?
Yeah.
2 decades of it. So
It's something to build on for
Yeah.
sure. A Florida Texas series would be.
So it would be wow. That would be wild. Now I want to. We are going to break down the game a little bit, but let's talk to Dave now, and then we're getting into the game because I want to talk about a couple of events that happened that I think really I know that Dallas is down 3-1, but like there was a couple of times in this game where I thought, maybe they will come back in this series. Just a thought. Let's talk to Dave.
You can bet that with David Bastel. Brought to you by Sports Interaction. Get in the action and make a play. 19 plus. Please play responsibly.
Well, Dave, it looks like our prop, which almost happened, clean sweep of both conference finals did not happen. The Dallas Stars pull it out in overtime. We just kind of finished talking about it. Now, This is the question, right? So does Dallas go on a bit of a run here? And I want to know, going into Vegas, they got to be the favorite. Vegas has got to be the favorite, but how much is the spread?
Actually, significant.
Oh,
Adam.
okay. All right.
A lot of odds makers are thinking this is a 5-game series, and that would be the clincher in Vegas. Vegas right now 168. They are the favorites. It's a 220 for Dallas. If you're thinking they're going to be Boston Celtic like and claw their way back into a series, but I'm not buying it. I'm actually kind of surprised it wasn't swept away. Out of the 2 series that were 3-0, I truly thought that the Florida Panthers, were the team that it was going to sweep, and I thought the Dallas Stars were the team that kind of shut down and called it a season. But obviously, I was wrong about that second one. So
Yeah, I could see how you would do that if you watched your first game this week. Watch your first Panthers game. They're never going to lose again.
No,
All
they
right,
may.
they're going to sweep the Stanley Cup final, Jesse.
I'm
just get used to it.
I'm blown away by the atmosphere with the Panthers and blown away by the atmosphere with Dallas. So, Dave, and we're not going to hold you to this, but if you were to make a prediction on Game 5, where are you putting your $2 bet?
$2 bet. I'm taking the Vegas Golden Knights to win.
You want to close it
I
out?
would go a couple different options too. I'd go Vegas first to score because sometimes there's more there.
Yeah.
I'd go Vegas to win the game. And if you want ultimate payback or I guess payment, go Vegas in regulation. So what you do is you click on the game. There's a couple levels of Vegas in regulation, so they have to win in 60 minutes. It's usually more of a payout than outright win, because outright win means 7 overtimes, 3 overtimes, just a win, right? But win in regulation, you get a little more value. I don't have the number in front of me, but if I had to predict it, it'd probably be about 20 cents more on the bet, which is fairly significant in the betting sense of things. So something to consider. But you know what? Who knows? Stranger things have happened. If you go back to Dallas, now we got ourselves something.
Oh,
right?
yeah. And it's a little hairy. But I think Steve said something interesting, and I want to bring it on Monday in case this series ends. And this is just for either team that Florida faces. I'd love to know the bet for Florida to sweep the Stanley Cup final.
Wow.
Because you don't think they're going to lose ever again.
No.
So let's put some money on it. Maybe we can get Florida sweeps the rest of the way. Their last loss would have been to the Leafs in game 4 there.
Yep.
And they run the table in the Stanley Cup final. I'd love to know those odds.
Okay.
That would be
I'll
the
get you
easiest
something.
thing.
I'll get you something for that on Monday then for sure.
Also,
Tune in.
Steve says they're not going to lose.
Never. Never again.
Something you could do, your way too early Stanley Cup bet, it's already up under the Dangles Doozies section, is goals by Matthew Tkachuk in the Stanley Cup finals. The over-under is set at 5.5.
Oh.
And it pays 2 times if it goes over, and 172 if it's under. That's either way, like
6 goals in 4 games is a lot.
yeah.
And here's a little tidbit, guys. We threw this up yesterday, and that number opened up at 4.5, and it was bet heavily to the over. That's why the number
so you
jumped
had
to
to
5.5.
raise it.
Just an FYI.
Wow.
Yep. They're on the Tkachuk train.
Woo!
Conn Smythe, Bobrovsky, Tkachuk.
It's got to be Bob, right?
I'm going goalie. Yeah.
Goalie, yeah.
This guy's been unconscious. All 130 pounds of him.
Yeah, he's a tiny man. Can we get a Conn Smythe bet going? Is that possible?
Yeah, they have the Conn Smythe odds.
Yeah,
up,
you
got
right?
that going up?
Yeah,
All
they
right.
have them up.
Those are up, yeah.
Beauty. I'm ready.
So yes,
You know what? So on Monday, I'll get you that sweep prop.
Yes.
And we'll talk some Conn Smythe too, because obviously we should have our two teams. So you'll have a list of 5 on one side, list of 5 on another, and away we go.
3 game-winning goals, 2 in OT, 1 with 4.5 seconds left, and an assist on the other game-winning goal. That's Conn Smythe to me.
Yeah.
prop bet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Will the Florida Panthers invite Brooks Koepka onto the ice to hoist the cup?
I'm really excited to be here.
And where does Aaron Ekblad hit him with his stick?
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Wrist,
For sure.
back of the net.
No, in the gonad.
Yeah, right.
It's gotta,
Yeah, okay.
gotta be in between.
I love it.
Tap
Dave,
on the shins.
Hollywood Dave Bastel, thanks so much for joining us, buddy. We'll see you Monday.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.
Now, first off, I want to say that I think Jamie Benn owns the entire Dallas Stars roster dinner. I think he owes them dinner. Now, we were shocked to hear, and we haven't done a show since this, that the Department of Player Safety actually gave him 2 games, which is the equivalent to 4 games.
That we need to.
I hate that.
Fucking hate that.
I hate it.
Oh, playoff
Dumbest
games.
thing ever.
No, they're all the same amount of games. Like
Just say the regular season doesn't matter. Just say the league does not value its most common product, which is the regular season.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, this is their differentiator. It's their USP.
I would argue now. So there was a bit of a debate going on that Michael Bunting still has the longest suspension in these playoffs, and that's insane.
How long was his again? 3?
3,
Yeah, that's...
and he deserved it. But I would argue
Jamie Benz was worse, man.
there were 2 deliberate attempts to injure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
why weren't those at very least equally punished? But what I would argue with Jamie Benn is what I argued last show. I think even though he only got 2 games, it's a worse suspension than Bunting's. And it's got nothing to do with elimination games or any of that. It's getting suspended for 1 game is not as bad as getting kicked out less than 2 minutes in and giving up a 5-minute major.
Yep.
That's worse than being suspended.
Maybe that's why he only got 2, though, because it was so early in the game.
That's 100% why.
Okay.
So to me, it's a 3-game suspension.
It is, yeah.
He cost his
with a game
team-
served.
He cost his team a whole victory in a playoff series in the conference final.
even a
Whole
chance
that's
at it.
victory. That's a punishment.
Who knows if they would have won or not, but he cost them even the sniff at it.
yeah.
No, you get suspended in game 1. In game 2, they can replace you in the lineup, and the team is not shorthanded. You do what Jamie Benn did. You screwed the whole team for the entirety of game 3.
Yeah. Forget dinner. Like he owes them. Like I don't even know. Like how do you come back from that? Like as your teammate? Like come on. That's why I'm so mad at this guy. Fucking sucks.
If they win the next game and they go down swinging with him in the lineup, I think it's one thing. I think there might be a few side eyes if they lose in game 5.
Yeah.
Did you want to play high sticking history, man?
Do you want to?
We can.
We can.
I have the video if you want to
do
play
it.
it.
We just-
we play the audio.
We
It
play
is
the audio just
Technically speaking, it is high sticking, even though it happened low.
Cross checking.
it's cross.
Yeah, no.
But the stick is high.
Your Honor, I was simply trying to give him the Heimlich maneuver. I thought he was choking on a piece of steak, and I tried to ram it out of his esophagus.
If you remember, Jamie Benn tried to phrase it as, it's unfortunate that his head happened to be where my stick landed.
He was like, I was falling and all that.
Like imagine punching a guy and be like, listen, I was throwing my fist around trying to stretch it out. It's unfortunate that his face happened
My
to be there.
fist caught a gust of wind, and I fucking just Hadouken. Just Street Fighter right in the neck.
Absolutely. All right, Jesse, go ahead.
Here we go.
Jesse's been waiting for us. I love their graphics. It's cool.
Tuesday night in Dallas. Stars forward Jamie Benn was assessed a major penalty and game misconduct for cross-checking Golden Knights forward.
Oh.
Oh, God.
Let's restart.
Tuesday night in Dallas. Stars forward Jamie Benn was assessed a major penalty and game misconduct for cross-checking Golden Knights forward.
Is it the video?
The NHL video player sucks.
It's
What, is there a clip of a
As he
sitcom
closes
again?
the
Oh,
gap,
here.
Benn chips the puck up the wall, then attempts to jump around Stone, sending him to the ice in the process. With Stone on the ice in front of him, Benn puts both hands on his stick, drops to his knees, and drives his stick into the head and neck area of Stone with force. This is cross-checking.
Thank you.
It is important to note that Benn is in control of this play at all times and makes the decision to deliver a full cross-check to a prone player. This is simply an unnecessarily dangerous decision by Benn, and it is delivered with sufficient intent and force to merit supplemental discipline.
Oh my God.
To summarize, this is cross-checking. Benn has been fined 4 times during his 1,030-game NHL career.
No
Department of
significant
Player Safety.
history.
Oh, let's pause on
You
that.
all ought to be fired. Oh,
Maddie, you can put this one up on the screen.
But he didn't say no history. No significant history.
fines don't matter. They don't matter. It's over. It's over, everybody. Let the debate be done. No significant history. Fines are not punishments of significance.
Yeah.
As worded by the National Hockey League. We're done with them. No more. If a player gets fined, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No significant history.
It is insignificant.
It's insignificant. It does not factor in to if a player gets suspended, or if you're evaluating whether or not a player should be suspended, you may not include whether or not they were fined in the past because it's insignificant. This league fucking stinks. Oh my God.
So let me play for you again what he says. Maddie, take that one down. There you go.
So
Let me play for you what he says about the
Oh.
history. Because he mentions the fines, right?
it's over.
So here we go.
Yeah.
If the player would play.
One.
Here we go.
To summarize, this is cross-checking. Benn has been fined 4 times during his 1,030-game NHL career.
And two of
The
them
Department of
happened
Player
back-to-back
Safety
games.
has suspended Jamie Benn.
So they give the
clubs.
amount of games and they say he's been suspended 4 times. So
Fine.
that is not a substantial amount according to the Department of Player Safety. But
How about we fined him 4 fucking times and he never got the message that
That's-
fines don't matter.
I feel like that is significant. You outlined something that should be significant in this whole matter. We've been giving you this deterrent and you haven't been listening.
The
because
Department of Player Safety has intervened with this player 4
4
different
times.
times, and it didn't fucking matter to him enough to not do this.
and yet they called it not significant. The 4 times
4
we had to
fines.
talk to you.
It's not 1 fine is insignificant. 4 fines is not significant. George Peros should be gone. 4 fines is insignificant, Adam.
I don't think it. I agree with you.
Not a league.
But
I'll shout it from the rooftops until it's not true.
Here's
The
what
reason I keep saying it is it's true.
the one thing I want to say to you is why don't you whine about it?
Oh, I know.
Why don't you simply-
cry about it and
Cry
cope
about
and
it,
seethe?
whiny dangle,
Yeah.
whiny,
Seethe.
wimpy
Well,
dangle.
Adam, how about well thought constructive feedback?
Oh no! Why don't you whine about it, you big baby?
Oh,
You don't-
shit.
You should know that hockey's violent and you should like it.
Hey,
Also,
you haven't
I do
hurt
like-
my feelings yet. I need clown emojis.
Oh
No, Adam, you gotta call him a bat fastard.
a bad fast.
Yeah, someone followed me on Twitter today. Just called me, or no, their username was Bat Fastard.
Yeah, you gotta call Steve a bat fastard.
Listen, you can like violence, but also think, hey, that person should probably be suspended. Listen, you like hockey, you like violence. You do. Just live with that fact. You don't have to like it, but it's true. I fucking love violence. Clearly, I like hockey.
I had two pieces of criticism for that video. Number 1, 4 fines is insignificant history. That's fucking crazy. And number 2, the video did not call Jamie Benn out for being a lying liar.
Well, they're not going to call him out on
They ought to. As you can see, Jamie Benn in this interview said he fell with his stick in his hands on top of Mark Stone's face. This is lying. Why not? This is lying. He is a lying liar who lies.
I don't think that's how court works.
Yeah,
you
but
don't.
this isn't court, is it? Say it because it's funny and also true. He's a liar.
Imagine the judge calls you out. He's like,
This is third grade logic. Jamie Benn has been fined an extra 2 games for being a dork. Oh my God.
I'm going to say this, and it's not going to be popular. Jamie Benn, worst facial hair in the NHL.
Really?
I don't like the chin strap.
nah.
Yeah, worst
you're
facial
wrong
hair in the
about
NHL.
that.
The best facial hair in the NHL is Radko Gudas. Everywhere else is
pretty
in between.
good.
Brent Burns is pretty good, but the chin strap thing, I'm like, yo, man, are you going to frost your tips and
I
put on
don't
some
think
Oakleys?
nobody on this show is getting behind you, Adam.
I'm listen. You know I'm right. Listen, let's talk about the game.
Damn, I was trying to find
The game was unbelievable because it starts with Vegas opening the score. William Karlsson, who I remember every time I think of William Karlsson, I think of Justin Bourne. And the reason I think of Justin Bourne is because we were doing a show one day, and Justin Bourne tweeted, and this is in 2017. It might have been at my first apartment. Like, it was like that long ago when we were doing the show there. And Justin Bourne went, holy shit, the person in Columbus who let William Karlsson be available in the expansion draft should be fired. And the person in Columbus who let William Karlsson be available in the expansion draft for Vegas to take tweeted at him and said, what the hell? You don't know what you're talking about, blah, 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 blah. And everybody was like, oh no, bro, you fucked up.
Which is hilarious because none of
within-
us actually knew who the person was. And then he just said,
Here I am.
I'm Spartacus.
And he deleted his account afterwards. Now listen, he might have gone on to a great career, but that was a L moment. So every time I think of William Karlsson, I think of that. He's got 8 goals these playoffs. Clutch guy. He was clutch from the get-go, and he's still clutch 6 years later. And this is where, like, Jason Robertson just does this. He scored with
A little bit
5
like
minutes
Jonathan
to go.
Marchessault. Don't let him get hot.
Yeah, you wouldn't. It's like almost you wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Oh, and he's angry.
And then of course Marchessault scores his 8th to begin the second, or sorry, not to begin the second period, halfway through the
He
second
didn't
period.
score once in the first round. He's got 8. Crazy.
Chris Morehouse, assistant director of amateur scouting for the Blue Jackets, is the one that tweeted back at.
Isn't Chris
Justin
Morehouse
Bourne.
the one that was running the Penguins too?
Yeah,
recently.
Where is he now?
I don't know where he is.
Hold
right
on,
now.
let's hold on.
Elite Prospects, that shit, Jesse.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
You got to know the website automatically. You got to know it. You got to know it.
Director of Sharks amateur scouting.
Type faster.
Now he's with the Sharks.
No, I asked Jesse, not you.
Oh, sorry. There was another Chris Morehouse who I think was associated, or there was somebody with Morehouse. Maybe
Yeah.
Morehouse.
So Morehouse went from Columbus, director of amateur scouting, to the Rangers, director of scouting, and then now the director of amateur scouting for the Sharks. But that's the one who tweeted at Justin Bourne and was like, "Hey, I let him go, and it was a bad decision."
Yeah, David Morehouse was the guy that was the CEO of the Penguins who recently stepped down.
What did you keep calling the coach of Montreal?
Jeff Ducharme.
Jeff Ducharme.
Dom is his name.
This is a Jeff Ducharme moment.
The reason I want to bring this up though is to me the game changes with Jason Robertson in the second period. Vegas is up 2-1. The game's pretty tight, but when that goal goes in with 3 minutes to go, close to the end of the period goals, we always say watch out for them. This is where I look at the Dallas Stars fans and they got their chant, right? They got their specific chant. It was almost like it reminded me of Nashville in 2016. It was like, thank you. Can we have another? You suck. It's all your
God.
fault. It's all your fault.
It's like you need a 1 and a 2 to go to a Nashville game.
It's amazing. And Dallas is the same, right? I think that comes from football too, right? Like there's a lot of those types of chants when you grow up in football culture. But Jason Robertson scoring that goal and then going to the bench, and you just see it on his face. There's an air of confidence, like we're okay.
Well, because that goal was wizardry. That was
Spectacular goal.
holy shit.
Crazy.
That's a hat pick.
It is.
I'm allowed to say that.
Is it? Are you gonna?
I make the choice.
Oh, I thought it was Nick that made
Mostly
the choice.
producer Nick, but sometimes I go, Nick, we need this one.
And he's probably like, I already got it.
He is because he's good at his job.
So Jason Robertson scores, and then there's no score in the third period. And here's the thing, man. Like, overtime, it can go either way. And I just instantly thought when it started that I'm like, I think Vegas is going to close this. And I don't know why I felt that way, but it just felt like the Florida Panthers were like Thanos. They were like inevitable. No matter what, you knew they were going to win. No matter how good Carolina played, they were going to win. And you forget that 38-year-old Joel Pavelski, 38-year-old
Is
Joel
on the
Pavelski,
biggest heater of his life.
Benjamin Button.
Ninth goal of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Benjamin Button.
Unbelievable.
Is he the new leader?
Has to
It was Draisaitl with 13.
All right.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And-
no, Pavelski's got 9.
No, like the new active leader, I mean.
I think probably.
Draisaitl's
He might win.
he might have the most goals.
Yeah.
That's what McKinnon had last year.
I look at a guy like Pavelski, and he's a former captain, and he was the first guy to stick up for Jamie Benn after game 3 and the incident there. And you understand and you see how, even if Dallas doesn't win this series, you understand and see how there are different leaders in that room who can step up when the other guy's not there.
Yep.
And every time we watch the playoffs this late into the playoffs, you heroes are made now. And I'm seeing, again, everything relates back to the Leafs. I'm a Leaf fan. But I one day I want that whatever our core looks like, I want that to be the case. If let's say Jamie Benn is their second best player, right? Tyler Seguin's number 1.
No.
Jamie Benn 2.
I got like 4 guys above him.
Yeah?
Jason Robertson, Rope Hintz, Miro Heiskanen on D.
Okay, so
Jake Ottinger.
So the 4th best player on the Toronto Maple Leafs is arguably John Tavares, right? You could say that, right? Because I put Matthews, Marner, Nylander ahead of him. If you have no Tavares in a game, how confident are you feeling about the Leafs winning in the playoffs?
Oh, I know. It's a big miss to not have Ben.
And I'm just saying, look at and Ben is a real presence too, right? And
Yes.
and these guys come in and they step up. The rest of the core steps up in this game. I thought it was such a gutsy, awesome effort. And I just sat back on my couch and then up in my bed because I shouldn't have been staying up that late because I'm supposed to get up early. But I just love the fucking playoffs, man. It was just beautiful.
So I was genuinely cheering for either a Vegas sweep or I said Dallas in 7, but I ultimately don't care who wins. So I'm going to say either team in 7. But if Dallas forces 7, I want it to be Dallas. So now that they won in 5, go Stars. Or now that they won game 4.
A couple things on the Stars here. We're talking about top playoff scoring and Pavelski and all that. The guy who leads playoff points is on the team, and it's Rupe Hintz.
Yeah.
He's still leading the playoffs in points with 24.
The noted
And
Frenchman.
He's second in goals with 10. He's behind Draisaitl, who put up the 13 in his short, brief stint in the playoffs. And then Pavelski's right behind with 9. And with Jason Robertson, I'm so impressed by the Dallas core because they seem to recognize the moment that they're in each time they're in the playoffs and that they need to step up in the gravity of the games they're in. Jason Robertson had 13 shots in the entire series versus Seattle. Last night, Jason had 11. He had to put up 11, almost the entire series versus Seattle. He equaled that total last night, put up 2 goals, and he looked dominant for most of the game.
And not to make it about the Leafs, but
What are you about to say?
but let's do it. No, so the Stars and the Golden Knights have had significant contributors on their roster go cold. And they're here because other guys stepped up. Forget Vegas using 19 goalies. We're gonna just ignore all that. Marchessault didn't do anything in terms of productivity in the first round. Now he's got 8 goals. So they were able to drag him through the first round. Then he got hot, and now he's just lighting the world on fire. The Stars had to step up in Joe Pavelski's absence. All the while, even during his absence, Robertson was kind of cold.
Yeah, he was. He had
been cold.
He put up he had a 3-assist game. He had a couple other apples sprinkled throughout, but he was non-existent on the scoring sheet for Seattle.
Last night is what you expect out of Jason Robertson, and it wasn't until they were on the brink of elimination in the 3rd round.
What you expect from him is goals, and
Yes.
he wasn't scoring goals.
Yeah.
So and then they still managed to win, and it's so impressive when they do stuff like that.
And it wasn't a fluke. It's because everyone everyone around him is. Rope Hintz is absolutely unbelievable. Some depth performances. You need it from everyone. There can't be any passengers in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
And I know we're gushing about Dallas because they looked really good and they were very impressive, but we should be also get shouting out the team that's going to win the Stanley Cup.
Well, I mean,
the Vegas Golden Knights.
There's a reason why Aiden Hill was the third star last night.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable. You know what? Honestly, it's one of the most even games I've ever seen. If you just look at the game stats, shots on goal, 39-42. The only thing that was different was hits. 23 Vegas, 46 Dallas. Faceoffs, 24-28. One power play one side, two on the other. 6 minutes in penalties total. The giveaways are about the same. The takeaways are about the same. The block shots are about the same. But the Vegas Golden Knights just continue to be themselves. And if to back your point, Jesse, if the Vegas Golden Knights continue to be themselves, they're going to win.
We need to start putting Jack Eichel into another tier of superstar.
Okay, I want to know about that. I want to know.
I want to hear what you have to say, and I have an answer for it.
Yeah.
Okay, because we don't talk about Jack Eichel in this upper echelon of superstars. We go through the Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews. We have that little group, and it's a little disrespectful to see what he's been doing in these playoffs, along with Mark Stone and the support from Barbashev, and Marchessault is now turning it on. And Jack Eichel has been absolutely on fire for the entire part of this run for them here, and he's been the leader. And it's a little disrespectful that we don't now put him into this upper echelon of superstar.
That's because of the poison of the NHL. And here's what I mean by that. So, you know how I've talked about no one likes the Golden Knights anymore because they're not the scrappy upstart.
They had one fun year and then everybody hated them.
Well, yeah, because they've like traded guys away, like, you know, commodities, and they have like how many guys from the original team? 5, like very few.
The Fleury situation.
Situation, all the cap shenanigans. Like no one likes that hockey team.
Yeah.
Like they're not the underdog. You know what I mean? Jack Eichel? No one likes Jack Eichel.
He's an underdog, though.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Why does nobody like Jack Eichel?
Because I think in NHL circles, it's held against him how he handled the Sabres saga.
You mean that he wanted to have control over how his neck was operated on?
At the end of the day, here he is, looking fit as a fucking fiddle, lighting it up in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Here's what these Stanley Cup playoffs are proof of. Jack Eichel was right. He was right to fight for his health. He was right to fight for his bodily autonomy. He made the right decision for the longevity of his career. And last year, he didn't look 100% amazing on a shorthanded team while playing with a broken hand. And we said, ha ha, dude who's coming off major neck surgery. Look at you, you suck ass.
I'm glad you mentioned the broken hand because everybody seems to ignore that.
I forgot about the broken hand.
Because we ignore those things for players we don't like.
I don't think it was actually like, it wasn't the hand. I think it was a pinky in particular. Some part of the hand that was.
Try holding your fucking stick with a broken hand.
Holding a pencil.
And he came back early to try and get the Golden Knights into the playoffs, if you remember, because they had that playoff race where they barely missed, and he came back with a broken, parts of his hand is broken just to try and get them in. What a gamer.
Yeah, what a gamer. And like, this isn't a shot at Sabres fans, like because I know a lot of Sabres fans don't love how that ended either, and I understand that.
I don't think Jack loves how that ended.
Well, nobody can be happy.
I think there's hurt feelings to go around, right? And at the end of the day, he might still be a Sabre if they just let him get his fucking surgery, and they wouldn't do that. He got it. He looks great out there. And he's the superstar we all thought he would be.
There was an air, I don't know if like from an outside perspective, because I'm not in the Sabres fandom day to day. I don't know if that's a secret, but there was always an air of they never wanted me with Jack Eichel because
from before he
that was his GM's
it was
reaction.
the Mick Eichel draft, right? Yeah. And they wanted McDavid and they got Jack and they never won anything, and it always felt like he never got there with the organization.
You saw what was that guy? Tim Murray. What was it?
No, it wasn't Tim.
Bob Murray?
No.
Tim.
Who was it?
Tim Murray.
Wasn't Tim Murray the coach? Or is that Bob Murray?
GM.
What are we talking about?
I don't know. Sabres. Hold on.
Whoever the GM.
Let me look it up.
Bob Gainey.
No, it's not Bob Gainey. It is
Tim Reynolds.
Tim Murray.
Oh.
Now,
Tim Jim.
Tim Murray's face on Wikipedia is exactly the face that he gave when he lost the first overall pick to Edmonton. He was fucking miserable.
Show me the face.
So was
Here, I'll send you the. This is the. Hold on. Tim Murray's face when he lost the first overall pick.
it.
I'm gonna look at it. Well, you can even read the fucking quotes. He said, "I'm
don't think he was
disappointed
live.
for our fans."
Oh, I got the CBS article.
Yeah,
that's
I'm disappointed for our fans that they ended up with Jack Eichel. How is a guy supposed to feel good when you're 18 and your new GM's like, you're a disappointment?
Yeah.
And you are a generational talent. And honestly, he is.
Yeah,
He's
you're a
just had
first
injuries.
overall pick in most years, and also
He's
suck.
Jack Eichel was probably, Austin Matthews was the next first overall pick. But after those two, Jack Eichel would have been the best first overall pick for 2 or 3 years.
Can I read some of
That's
this?
a tough one. You might not be wrong.
Can I read some of this?
Please.
'Cause it's not great. So Tim Murray said this. He says, I watch him too much and I think too much about him. I wish I could help myself, Murray said, sounding less like an NHL GM and more like a boy with a crush.
Yeah.
When something like that gets out there, the fan base knows that the GM has eyes for only one player and anything less simply isn't enough because it's not going to be enough for the GM. Everyone knows that there was a chance at something a little better, but that's why you can't pin your hopes on 20%. Murray said he is disappointed for the fans, but he's the one that set them up for this disappointment. He did it by constructing a roster that couldn't win, hanging on to a coach that couldn't win as badly as he wanted to, making the public statements that he did about McDavid.
Eichel should have never.
There are other ways the Sabres set
never
the fan
signed.
base
He
up for
should have
this
never
kind of
reported.
disappointment too.
He should have demanded a trade.
He should have gone.
Hey
back
man,
to,
Sabres fans ended up hating him anyway. They should have hated him earlier.
should have gone back to university. Holy fuck!
So when
that's
you-
so bad.
When you look at that, think about that in just like a normal corporate setting.
That's Chris Peters, by the way, who's writing that back in 2015.
That's grounds for dismissal. If you
Well,
talked
was
openly
that-
about somebody.
Was that Chris Peters' words, or was that all Tim Murray? Like,
No, that's Chris Peters writing about the Tim Murray wanting.
Tim
Jack-
Murray did say though.
He
in
says-
quote, I set the fans up for failure. Or sorry.
No, that's Tim Murray.
Oh, he did.
So this is Murray's words about Connor McDavid. I watch him too much. I think too much about him. I wish I could help myself. And then Peters wrote that blurb about how Tim Murray has been acting in the media.
so
That part's the only quote. Just so everyone's clear.
This year is, Connor Bedard is a monster. He's an actual fire-breathing dragon, scary under your bed monster. The Blackhawks are going to get him first overall. Second overall, not sure who the Ducks are going to get, but did you notice how did anything in either of you go, oh yeah, it's the Ducks? Like, did you know that the Ducks had the second
They didn't say
overall
shit.
pick? Yeah.
By the way,
because I think they took a lesson from how the Jack Eichel situation was handled.
But
just shut up.
Yeah, like I gotta say, like, and they, the reason that Tim Murray was, first off, it's a hockey mad market. Number two, they were the story that year in terms of, and they had been the story about the teardown. We're doing this intentionally. This is what we want to do. And then here's the problem with Tim Murray is he surrounded Eichel with a bunch of guys who were bad, overpriced guys who were bad contracts. And unfortunately, the Kyle Okposo contract, he got sick. You can't plan for that.
Yeah, no.
But like the Matt Molson deal, disaster. And there was a few other ones that were just terrible. And I think there's a reason he's not worked in the NHL since then, or at least as a general manager. That is terrible leadership and a terrible precedent to set. And when you got guys like Ryan O'Reilly leaving and going, I lost my love of the game.
That's so funny because I just clicked on who was on the Sabres Jack Eichel's rookie year. So he was their leading goal scorer with 24. Ryan O'Reilly led them in points with 60.
Do you know what happened immediately after leaving Buffalo and getting traded?
He won the Conn Smythe Trophy.
He won the Stanley Cup and the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Yeah.
Jack Eichel's on a very similar trajectory right now. There's something about leaving Buffalo.
Well, the way they used to be set up, I think they're changing now.
Oh my God, they're so different. This isn't the same franchise at all. I don't want Buffalo fans to get this twisted at all. They are in a completely different place.
Well, Jesse, I think you're too late. They've already written their hate comments on the video section.
Dude, no,
comments are already there.
These aren't the same run teams. Like the one that tanked for Jack Eichel and then had that whole saga go on in the Ryan O'Reilly trade. The team that we saw this season isn't the same.
Some guys from this team have gone on to have really good careers. Ryan O'Reilly, obviously, the second he left. Jack Eichel now. You know who else was on that team and is having a really, really, really good playoff? Sam Reinhart.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
I'm going to mumble my way through Rasmus Ristolainen. And then we get to Evander Kane, who...
Oh, yeah.
That's complicated, but he's found his spot in the league. Marcus Foligno is a really effective player for Minnesota. Man, I didn't think 15-16 was that long ago, but Jesus Christ, Brian Gionta, David Legwand.
Oh, wow.
A very young Jake McCabe. A very not young Carlo Koliakovo. Evan Rodriguez was on that team. Robin Leonard and Linus Ullmark
No way.
were both on that team.
Yeah.
And guess who played the most games? You're right, Chad Johnson. Who, by the way, had a 920.
If you took the best parts of that team and just kept them together, that team's probably in the conference finals now.
Here's another name to add to that list a couple years later. You ready? Left on the scrap heap for nothing. He was great. He had great analytics. And then he went to Buffalo and he was garbage. And people were like, this guy sucks. Get him out of my mirror. And this year he had 73 points. Who am I talking about?
Taylor Hall?
Brandon Montour.
Oh, yeah.
Man, okay. Like
73 points this year. In Buffalo, he had 10, 18, and 14. Now, he was injured part of that. But, you know, the advanced stats, people were like, man, I don't know anymore. But
he had to be pried out of Anaheim, too. Wow.
Yeah.
This year's been the Brandon Montour coming out party.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what a
Everything we
great
expected him to
playoffs
be.
from him.
In Buffalo's defense, he went from career high 38 points to like
13.
nearly 80.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. You mean in Buffalo?
Yes, yeah.
We're about
Yeah,
38 in Anaheim to like 13 the next year.
He, I think, was with Florida. Still
It's nice to see for the Sabres that's turned around, but it's nice to see for Jesse getting back to that original point. And he is, you know,
No, let's muddy the water.
when Mark Stone played against the Montreal Canadiens, and remember his stat line was 0, 0, 0, 0.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
like-
man, Vegas was disappointing in that series.
They were, and I think now with Chandler Stevenson playing more of a role that he should play, he's a good player. And Mark Stone is able to be, first off, he's healthy, but he's able to be a little bit more of what he is. Jack Eichel clearly was the piece that Vegas was missing in that Montreal series in the conference finals.
Oh, man.
He's
so bad.
He's arguably like their best center in franchise history.
Has to be.
I don't think there's an arguably about it.
Like, it's-
You could argue William Karlsson had a better single season.
Sure. Yeah, the 42
far.
goal one. Yeah.
So far.
Yeah.
But it's
in terms of
also
point totals, but in terms of like the player skill, Jack Eichel, the thing that impresses me so much about his game last night and throughout the playoffs, he's so fast.
Yes.
I didn't know he's like one of the fastest players on the ice at any moment. The dude's quick and he's unbelievable to watch.
I think too, when you look at him coming off this. So last season with Vegas, they didn't make the playoffs. Robin Leonard goes down towards the end of the year. There's a bunch of controversy. They fire the coach. It was a mess last year in Vegas. They missed the playoffs for the first time.
Part of the reason no one likes
And people were like, see, Alex Tuck, way better get. And I think Buffalo did benefit from the Eichel trade. I think it was a perfect trade.
Because they both
did
won.
well.
Yes.
But you got to remember that Eichel did have that injury. And I'm going to harken back to the Leafs with Tavares. Once he had that knee to the head from Corey Perry, accidental in the Montreal series, the next year he comes back, he's still point a game, but he's not the same. And then it takes another year. You go, oh, that's John Tavares. That's the John Tavares that I know. And this year he had a spectacular year. We'll get to it later, but Leaf fans for some reason hate him again, and I don't get it.
We're just sort of upset with life.
I think we're just upset with life. He's actually, John Tavares is
Can
not
you
your
blame
problem.
us? Like,
But I think that, you know, you got to give people a little bit of time to like heal up and become what they are. I mean, imagine having a broken hand. We talked about you got a sore hand. You can't even lift a dinner plate.
well, I'm seeing some interesting revisionist history with Sergei Bobrovsky. Because people are like, well, it's almost like he's won multiple Vezina.
Oh, stop it.
And I want to be like,
Stop. You didn't even start the playoffs. Fuck off.
also, he's been shit for
2 years.
several years, at least 2.
Since he signed that contract.
He lost his starting job like 4 times in the last 4 years.
He was their 3rd best goalie this regular season.
Would he have even played in these playoffs if Spencer Knight was injured?
It's
Who knows?
possible
Wasn't
he
injured.
wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It's possible he wouldn't have. And
But look at him.
here he is, as good as his Blue Jacket self, if not better.
And that's not to discredit his run right now. It's to say that to
It's a
get to this point was kind of a really rocky journey.
Well,
And stop
full of
pretending you're
injury.
not surprised.
Full of injury, though.
And full of injury.
Yes.
Yeah, and-
stop pretending you're not surprised by this. It's surprising. And it's great. It's a great story. But don't be that fucking hipster who's like, well, I knew. Let's see your bets then. Yeah? Did you put money on Bobrovsky even playing a game in these playoffs? Don't think so. I'm sorry. Like, give me a break.
No, it's an awesome story. He's playing
fantastic.
absolutely out of his mind. We haven't seen a goalie steal playoffs like this since.
Ottinger.
Vasilevsky was unbelievable and a lot of the
Underrate Vasilevsky because the team
But he
in front
didn't
of him, though.
he didn't steal it. No,
I would say Holtby with the Caps. He stole that series against Tampa. I would say. He had shutouts in Game 6 and Game 7. That's nuts.
I don't remember as well as you.
But even then, like and what's amazing about that is he didn't start those playoffs.
No.
He didn't
No, he
start those
didn't.
playoffs
It was-
for his team. It was Philip Grubauer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Phil, it's amazing how many like iconic goaltending performances, like Stanley Cup winning goaltender performances, came from guys who did not start the playoffs with their team. Cam Ward took over for Martin Gerber. The year Jaguar finally won the cup, it was actually Ilya Bryzgalov who began the playoffs. Holtby took over for Grubauer. I know Matt Murray and Marc-Andre Fleury, that's a little different, flip-flopping back and forth. Don't try to understand hockey.
Hey,
it's just don't try. Just enjoy it.
I think Saturday night's game is going to be spectacular. If you were to pick a winner, guys, and then we're going to move on to the next subject, who are you picking?
Getting deeper into a series and the fact that they're at home, I just have a hard time seeing Vegas losing.
Jesse Blake.
I'm going to say Vegas does it at home. Yeah.
Sorry, I have a hard time seeing Vegas losing until they play Florida.
The unstoppable force meets the immovable object. Honestly, I think Vegas wraps this up, but don't color me surprised or Dallas green. That ugly green color. Don't color me surprised.
It's beautiful.
What's Everly's favorite color right now?
That's a good question. I should ask her that.
How is it not blue?
It should be.
Why would it be blue?
It's her middle name.
Middle name.
Yeah, but like she
Bad friend.
I know her.
Bad friend. He had no idea.
I know what her middle name is. It could be any color.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if she's put 2 and 2 together with her name and the color. I don't know if she's ever thought about it. Yeah. You know, kids are like, "Oh, I haven't thought about that," and then they ponder on that for several days and ask you about it 40 times.
That's Leo holding his little chicken toy and a chicken nugget and going.
Doesn't get it.
Oh, ew! What if he realizes one day that he's eating the toy?
Oh, I don't think he's gonna have a Lisa Simpson moment and go, "I'm a vegetarian now." I think he's gonna go, "But nuggets are delicious."
Adam, I interrupted you.
No. I would not be surprised if Dallas wins another one. To me, it just felt like maybe they actually did find that thing that tips them over, and they got to be thinking right now, if we can just get through this one game in Vegas, Jamie Benn's back. And then it's real interesting.
And then Jamie ideally has the best game of his life.
Yes.
Or tries to kill someone else. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that would probably be included in the best game of his life. That's how Jamie Benn plays hockey.
Well, it would be Game 6.
But
perfect time.
But you don't like violence, do you? Cry about it, baby.
No.
Cry about it, you big wimp dangle.
Open and seething in my clown shoes.
All right, so
Bat fastard.
Fuck, I'm trying to find the tweet. Some guy just went like, "Nice opinion, fatty."
Do you? Oh yeah, you were telling us the
actually,
other
you
day.
laughed about that. That was funny.
Yeah, that happened like right at the end of our last show. And I burst out laughing. Because it's just It's so unnecessary.
Oh, yeah. The only way that the Leafs could make this GM search any tighter in terms of timeline is if they used Manscaped products. Wouldn't you say? They're trimming it awful close.
Oh, okay. That was pretty good.
That's all right.
That was, they set it.
I don't
They
mind
set it
that.
to 0.5.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Now, we used it on your face when the Leafs were eliminated, Steve.
Yes.
Your beard has grown in very nicely ever since, nice and even. Are you going to trim it down a little bit?
I already have.
Oh, you have?
I trimmed down the neck.
Oh, because you don't want to be a neckbeard guy.
No, you don't want to be neckbeard.
Jesse, I know that your beard's growing back in.
Steve, speaking of Steve's neck beard, can you do the thing where you look like a beaver when you put up your neck beard? Yeah.
I love that.
All the hair goes down. It's very beaverish.
The Lawnmower 4.0 doesn't make you, not only makes you easy on the eyes, but it's easy on your skin with its skin safe technology that reduces your nicks and cuts. Manscaped has been working hard with the new Weed Whacker 2.0 as well. And that's the one we used on your facha, your face.
Oh.
Yeah, you see? All right. So now listen, if you want to use Manscaped and you want to look sexy like Steve and Jesse, because I can't grow a beard, get 20% off and free shipping with the code DANGLE at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off and free shipping with the promo code DANGLE, DANGLE at manscaped.com.
But Adam,
Yes.
can you grow the other areas that Manscaped cleans up?
Yeah, above your ass.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. So you can use the
Also,
product.
I used it on my ears too. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
the ear and nose trimmer. Yeah.
I use the nose.
And the down there trimmer.
Yeah. Anyway.
Do they make those?
Manscaped.com promo
We
code
got to
DANGLE.
talk about that.
Let's wrap it. From at Mostly Leafies, also named Toronto Maple Scumbags.
Fair.
There is a conversation to be had about the next Leafs general manager that will continue on until it happens. And the report card will start right away. And we are going to live and die by this person and the moves that they make. And I want to remind you that when this person comes to Toronto and signs on as the general manager of the Leafs for 3 or 4 years, however long the contract is, remember that they are not the general manager. Brendan Shanahan is the general manager. The person who is the general manager for the Leafs is merely the guy that does Brendan Shanahan's legwork.
Yep.
Because if Brendan Shanahan has to approve every move, then Shanahan is the general manager.
Highest paid intern in the league.
So, Mostly Leafy's tweeted this, and it's a quote from an article. The type font looks like it's from The Athletic, and it's a quote from Kevin Lowe.
Stealing from the Athletic.
Former head. It's only a small one, and it's an old article.
Okay. So, like, you don't know where the actual...
I don't know where the actual thing is, but Kevin Lowe said, all I remember is Brian Burke and Brad Treliving high-fiving one another after we chose Draisaitl. And Lowe said, I'm thinking, oh shit, did we miss something? And the person he drafted afterwards was Sam Bennett. Now, Sam Bennett turned into a good hockey player. Not for the Flames, though. But Leon Draisaitl, and I think here's what's happening, is we're seeing a discourse already take place. It's almost like Treliving. It's like they're not even going to call anybody else. And the reason that Treliving's name is out there is obviously he's in Toronto right now interviewing for the job, going through several rounds. But nobody else seems to know who else is being interviewed. We had Ray Shero on Agent Provocateur yesterday, and you should check out the interview. Really affable guy, really nice. We asked him about it. And we asked him about if there was a job opening, would you be interested? And he said, well, I'd have to see. That's all he said.
Which means yes.
But I think it's a little unfair to take all of the moves that happened in Calgary, the contracts signed, the moves made. It's fair to attribute most of it to Brad Treliving. And actually, if you look at the Flames roster, he did a pretty good job. Mm-hmm. But especially recently, it's tough for me to go, I hate this guy, because he's not Dubas, which I think is what most people are doing.
Yeah.
I think Brad Treliving last summer was the belle of the ball. He was an all-star general manager. People were talking about him like he was going to win the Lou Lamoriello Award and maybe even beat out Lou Lamoriello for it.
He went from bum to bell in 24 hours.
And back to bum. And the reason why he went back to bum is because his owner didn't want the coach that he hired. Now, Brad Treliving made some shitty coaching hires. He hired Glenn Galutson, who is not cut out to be a head coach. throwing his stick into the crowd and like just obnoxious shit.
Bill.
He's a good assistant in Edmonton now. Bill Peters, which they like sold the farm to get Bill Peters, who had underperformed in Carolina, and then all the shit came out about Bill Peters.
Yeah, he was a bad coaching hire based on hockey.
Yeah.
And then we learned about all the...
And just a curmudgeon anyway. Just a guy you don't want to play for. And then, and maybe Murray Edwards likes this, Murray Edwards makes him hire Sutter. And Sutter comes in, doesn't want to play the team the way that Treliving does. But the first year it goes really well. Sutter wins the Jack Adams. The next year, the two best players on the team are gone, but they're replaced with what you would expect to be comparable players. Jonathan Huberdeau and Nazem Kadri. Maybe not the exact same, not the same type, but still pretty good. And Sutter was off his fucking rocker, played the team completely wrong, and they lose 17 overtime games.
Was it actually 17 overtime and shootout?
Yeah.
It's
bonkers. Two of those go your way. The Flames are in the playoffs. And by the way, the Flames finished higher in the playoffs. If you were to take the top 16 teams, the Flames finished with more points than the Panthers.
The Panthers had an identical record to the Nashville Predators, who did not make the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's so wild. Anyway, sorry, that's a separate conversation.
So I want to, as a Leaf fan, I want to consider something here. Clearly, there's an ethos within the Toronto Maple Leafs, and it's headed up by Benn and Shanahan. Who else would it be? Now, if the reports are to be believed, and I believe them, CJ checked with several sources on the whole Brendan Shanahan calling the core four and leaving them with the impression that they were going to be sticking around. I want to take something into account here. I want you to understand that sometimes in the NHL, people say stuff and then the other thing happens. Sometimes it's not a lie. The plan changed. And sometimes the plan changed, as we saw, over 72 hours. If somebody comes along and says, hey, Toronto, we got this great offer for one of your core four. Toronto's not going to be like, no, we already called them at their cottage and said we were keeping them.
Yeah.
We don't want to get better. No, they're going to make those trades.
Yeah, Brendan Shanahan gave Kyle Dubas a contract offer and said, hey, I want you to come back as general manager. And then on a random Thursday driving home on the Gardiner, he said no.
Yeah.
So things can change.
Yes.
Well, and the Leafs I'm sure the Leafs have received a lot of calls recently because I think the rest of the league sees a wounded animal.
Yes.
And, the report that Shanahan called up the Leafs core four and said, you're staying, does nothing but help their value.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
oh, yeah.
I know
a good point.
Yeah. I know we don't have a GM right now, but don't call us to fuck with us. Like, to me, I'm interpreting it as, yeah, you're all staying because everyone calling and offering things for you, it's just dog shit, and we would never consider
it.
We would rather run it back with a group we know is going to lose than trade you for the packages we've received.
That's some sneaky good sleuthing there, Steve.
That's a good point.
Because, knowing that, hey, the reports out there that they're staying only makes the offers higher because now you got to pry them from our dead hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also want to say that
happens all the time.
Yeah.
I'm of the ilk that believes that you can have... you can absolutely have a good outcome here. Am I thrilled that Dubas left the way that he did? No. Am I thrilled that Dubas isn't here anymore? Definitely no. Do I think that the Leafs can still come out of this a better team? Absolutely.
Are you thrilled that we have confirmation now that Brendan Shanahan is making all the decisions?
Well, yeah, because now I know what I'm talking about a little bit better. Don't you think? Like, as we do this show and sometimes for sure. Sometimes you're guessing. Sometimes you're piecing things together and you got 85% of the picture. And honestly, the bigger this show's gotten, the closer we've gotten to the game. Like, when we started the show, we're just in my mom's basement, man.
Oh, I was having little birds whisper things to me about some of the openings around the NHL just yesterday.
That's the thing. It's started to happen. And so I wanted to start this conversation with, this can go well. It's just a question of will it? Yes. Allow for that possibility, though. And when Brad Treliving makes the first, and if it's Brad Treliving, let's say, when Brad Treliving makes the first move that you don't like, don't say this guy sucks forever, or maybe you will and you'll vent. But don't believe that in your bones. Don't rob yourself of hope, because the whole point about sports is having hope and then having that dashed.
Do you remember the few months where every bad decision the Leafs made was Mark Hunter and all the good ones were Kyle Dubas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
listen, I think there might be some truth to that, but not 100%, man.
Now, here's how it can go bad. Okay, you think Treliving's bad, and he's the guy that's name's out there. Here's how it can go bad. Instant no, in my mind. Marc Bergevin, instant no. I don't want anything to do with the way that guy manages a team. I don't want anything to do with the way that guy hires coaches. I don't want anything to do the way... I think his trades are 50-50. I think he made some really great, smart trades, and I think he made some dumbass trades. And I hope that whatever he's done in LA, with the Rob Blake and the Luc Robitaille situation, that it's modernized his view of the game. I don't think he's great with the media. I don't think he's the guy for this team. Jason Botterill
with Bergevin.
Oh.
I think if you had all the resumes for the GMs like out on a table and all of the names were covered, you look at Bergevin's resume and you're like, that dude would be perfect for the job. He in a major Canadian market, he was there for a long time, and he went to a Stanley Cup final.
Yep.
A couple conference finals.
Yep.
He made some really aggressive trades that worked out. But then you peel the stickers off and you look at the name and you say, I don't like how that guy handled anything. And he becomes the guy who's not right for the job.
I'm a little surprised Treliving's name is the prominent one, because I kind of see their direction going in the way of someone like Bergevin. Like, I think they want a hard ass. So remember Babcock was such a bad cop that they had to bring in Sheldon Keefe to be uber good cop.
Yeah, because DJ Smith was the guy that was supposed to even Babcock out.
And now Keefe has like sort of transitioned to bad cop, and he's still a motivational speaker. It's ridiculous how this team is. They went from having a guy who was way too harsh on them to being completely over coddled, and I think they want a hard ass and
GM,
a hard ass GM, and I just don't know if that's Treliving's MO.
Right.
Really.
That's why I look at Bergevin. I'm like, if he wasn't Marc Bergevin, he'd be perfect.
He threw so many guys all the way under the bus.
Yeah. I don't know.
And usually came out on top, though.
Another name that has popped up, and I think it's more of a joke, but I do know from my little birds that he's been angling hard for this. I know this. Peter Chiarelli. He wants this job, something fierce. And, he's a former GM who,
So is Stan Bowman.
Who could blame him? Peter Chiarelli for me. So again, Bergevin for me, I instantly believe that this team is not going to get better. Chiarelli for me, I instantly in my soul down to my butthole know that this team is going to be trash. And I know that guys won a Stanley Cup, but I still know that is not the guy.
Everything he did since that Stanley Cup stunk.
Yeah, and that was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And we've done this with Randy Carlyle and Brian Burke. And,
ask Bruins fans if they would like Peter Chiarelli back.
Yeah. How's it gone for
He
you?
brought a cup there, and no, fuck off.
The other name that I want to bring to your attention, who doesn't get a ton of credit because he was a part of one of the worst eras in this team's history, but made some very intelligent moves, is Jason Botterill. Mm-hmm. Jason Botterill is the reason that Tage Thompson is a Buffalo Sabre.
So he was Sabres GM sort of at the height of us talking about
Eichel in the neck.
Well, the meddling ownership.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
I guess the Eichel neck thing came under Kevin Adams.
And, well, yeah, it came to a head.
The Buffalo Sabres are the best when the Pagulas are concerned about the Bills.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And tennis.
Oh, you meant the football team. I was like, well, yeah, they're the owners. They paid.
Steve.
No, so he wasn't allowed to do his job there. But what do we keep saying about this job?
You're not going to be allowed to do your job here.
Well, then.
So who managed?
So it'd be perfect.
The one thing I'll say about Brad Treliving is, for a guy that was not allowed to make a lot of the moves he wanted to make, he still did a pretty good job.
Well,
and he seems to understand what strong defense looks like, which I don't think the Leafs ever got right under Kyle Dubas. The Leafs, the defense got better these last couple years.
They stepped over a low bar.
It was, yeah.
So if we accept the rather provable truth that Brendan Shanahan gets the final call and everything. This is the nihilistic way of saying it. You're taking the
Positive.
positive, optimistic way of looking at it. The nihilistic way of looking at it is if Brendan Shanahan is ultimately making the final decision anyway, does the resume of any of the candidates matter? Like, should we overanalyze what Brad Treliving did?
I think it does. I think it does.
No, so he's coming from a situation where he didn't get the final call on anything, and he's going into a situation where he's not going to get the final call on anything.
I'll tell you why it matters. Here's why it matters.
Why does it matter?
Creativity.
Creativity?
Brad Treliving's job is to come up with creative ideas. And in Calgary, it was to come up with creative moves
Or any GM.
that we're going to continue to make the team good that he could sell Murray Edwards on. And he did that for 10 years. This is what he was. I was born in this.
Oh,
I was made by this.
Unbelievably long time there.
And I think when you look at what this GM's job is going to be is clever moves that Shanny can then sell to himself and the board. And so Shanny, while he'll get the final say, the general manager themselves is the one that's actually there to put together the deals. So he knows he's going to figure out what Shanny's going to say yes and no to, and he's going to try to work around that. I listen. That is the setup. It's sort of bleak, but that's the way the Leafs want to run it right now. So of the candidates I've given you, that's the guy who I think makes the most sense because under similar pressure, he was able to put together a division-winning team last year, and honestly, a team that really underperformed this year. If Markstrom was even half playable this year, they're in the playoffs.
Yeah, they were killed by bad goal.
Bad goal and a terrible coach.
Yeah, really bad coach. But why did we move off of Jason Botterill so quickly?
Well, let's talk about Jason Botterill.
I think it's funny that the podcast has like a through line with that era of Buffalo Sabres, but like you said, he made the Ryan O'Reilly, Tage Thompson deal and all those moves.
Yep.
That's what set them up for now. And there's a bit of a resume there in terms of he was in Buffalo, made some good moves that in the end we see with some perspective looked like they worked out.
I think it was a bit of an unwinnable situation.
So, and then how much can we judge it for when everything is kind of just a mess from what he inherited to the owners above him?
He was
and
also
then
there for a hot minute too.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Yeah, it wasn't very long. Actually, I have the timeline here. It was from 2017 to 2020.
Okay, I'm going to look at the draft.
He was the general manager. And now from 2021 onwards, he's been AGM in Seattle. And I look at what Seattle's done and I say, that's awesome. I'd love somebody who was a part of that organization and built what we saw these playoffs, because we underrated that team completely last year. And then they run it back and they believe in the process and they come back with a great team.
So there's two situations now. Buffalo, like 2020 Buffalo, and Seattle, where Jason Botterill has been part of a team where you go, ha, idiot. And then later on, you wait enough and you're like, oh, wait, he was right.
let's look at the 2017 draft, which I'm pretty sure he would have presided over, but if he didn't, whatever. Middlestat, not bad.
That's a tough one.
But
He was hired on May 11th of 2017.
okay, so he would have overseen this draft.
I've seen it, but
Yeah, I'd say the 2018 draft is the one you want to look at.
yeah,
okay.
I would cut out the 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first off, they had the first overall pick, Rasmus Dahlin.
Oh, they did great. I hope the Leafs get him.
Second round, Matthias Samuelsson.
Yeah.
And the rest of the guys haven't even played in the NHL yet. 2019 draft, Dylan Cousins, number 7. Perhaps not the best 7th overall pick of all time, but still pretty good.
He's pretty good.
And other than Lucas Rosick, who was in the 6th round, who played 2 games, nobody has played. And then 2020 draft, Jack Quinn, 39 points in 77 games, and John Peterka, 32 points in 79 games.
I like JJ Peterka.
Yeah.
It's funny because he was fired in June of 2020, but you got to give him the credit for the 2020 draft because that's your scouting department. That's your team.
Oh, because
Yeah.
the 2020 draft was in friggin' October.
Yeah.
Right. So
They have not drafted well.
he was fired.
shit.
I guess that would have been before even the bubble came back.
And also, let's not forget that they fired their entire scouting staff.
Right.
With
I
him.
forgot.
With him underneath.
COVID messes that whole thing up.
Well, COVID messes that whole thing up, but also you're coming to the Leafs who have any candidate, like forget Botterill, any candidate is coming to the Leafs where you're going to have nearly endless resources. They have something that he didn't, a scouting department, which is wild to say, but
And
I'm
they're
pretty sure they did all their scouting on video.
And their scouting department's been really good. The Leafs one.
They've had some pretty decent little
Good hits, yeah.
when they've had picks.
Yeah.
Also on
Haven't always had picks.
Also on his resume is AGM as for the Pittsburgh Penguins from 2009 through 2014.
That's how he got the Buffalo job.
Yeah.
So there's some good stuff in his resume. I'm just
Maddie's laughing. You sounded like if Leafs Twitter could speak collectively, it would be what
we're doing right now is we're talking ourselves into somebody who's mediocre. I mean, I don't know how much he had involved with Kraken, but no offense to Jason Botterill, but I think he, if he were being honest on this show, would say it hasn't gone as great as I would have liked, Bob.
I think, and this is very difficult to evaluate, is sometimes the best move is the one you don't make. And he's nominated for GM of the Year, which is dumb. It's a dumb award. But Bill Zito made 1 billion moves last year. And they won the President's Trophy, and they shit the bed in the playoffs. Then in the summer, can you pull up the Panthers and what they've done? I want to know how many trades they've made since acquiring Matthew Tkachuk.
Trades?
Yeah.
All right, so
There it is. No, you've already scrolled past it.
Oh, did I already scroll past it?
You already scrolled past it. I think the answer's 2.
Oh, here it is. Okay, July 22nd, 2022. The Flames and Florida Panthers made a trade you may have heard of. It involved Matthew Tkachuk. Since then, the Florida Panthers have traded Giovanni Smith. They acquired him, and they sent Michael Del Zotto to Florida, to Anaheim, and the Red Wings acquired Danny O'Regan from Anaheim.
It's like the least consequential three-way deal ever.
And then the other trade they made was March 20th, 2023, where they sent Cole Krieger for future considerations back from the LA Kings.
That's a good name.
So since acquiring Matthew Tkachuk, the biggest roster player they acquired was Giovanni Smith. So I think we judge GM and we judge executives by the moves they make. I mean, Bill Zito didn't do shit this year, and maybe that was the move. Also, maybe there's a beauty to the Florida Panthers that I deeply hope other teams, including the Leafs, do not try to replicate. Because the Panthers are the first team since the expansion era, not Vegas, not Seattle, we're talking 1968, to spend less than 30% of the regular season in a playoff spot and then go to the Stanley Cup final. And it's because Pittsburgh fucked it up. I was tweeting about it the other night. Have you gone back and watched the highlights from the 5-2 Blackhawks win over the Penguins?
Yeah, we freaked out about it that night because it was such an egregious loss.
Arrest the Pittsburgh Penguins.
We have a podcast titled Ent Whistle. I don't know if you remember that. Because I was like, can you guess who scored the game-winning goal? Who ended their entire franchise? And it was Mr. Ent Whistle, and we named the pod after it.
I have a screen cap I got to send you. I have to send you to. Oh fuck! Did I delete it? No, it's Tristan Jarry, who was in net and should also be arrested. Oh my god! I'm trying to find it.
It's okay.
They just completely in 26 seconds they blew that game. Mm-hmm. It resulted in the Blackhawks moving from dead last to third last, the position they were in order to get Connor Bedard. it resulted in Florida making the playoffs and the Penguins missing. Like, it legitimately changed the entire face of the NHL. A seemingly innocuous 5-2 game between the Penguins and Blackhawks in April.
No, but that's the revisionist history because it wasn't innocuous because at the time we knew the stakes and that's why we came
That's
on.
actually very
we came on the next day and we freaked out about the loss because it was such a big loss. So I don't like that.
Studio.
Yeah, that was at Adam's house. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That was a month ago.
Yeah.
Oh, 2.
2 months.
my,
Yeah.
Oh my.
It's 2 months ago.
Not even 2 months.
We moved in here 2 months ago.
Fuck you.
No, we did.
Fuck off.
Also that. I mean, yeah, listen, everybody on Twitter.
I'm gonna be.
I also want to throw this out there. It's. I want to talk about Dubas for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kyle Dubas, headed up as general manager of this team, ushered in one of the probably the best regular season stretch era that and I include Lou Lamoriello in that. I include Shanahan in that, obviously.
Oh, good.
Everyone
feel better.
These 7 years of regular season have been the best I think that the Leafs have ever had, probably since the expansion era. But I also want to remind you that maybe a fresh set of eyes might not be the worst thing. I don't love the GM candidates. I get it. But I think Tree Living is for sure the best one. And if that's who we end up with, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm. And there's is it a fresh set of eyes if the guy who oversees the eyes is the same guy?
So Josh Clokey for The Athletic mentioned that this sucks.
This sucks.
Kerfoot was almost traded to the Blues as a part of the O'Reilly-Achari deal, and Dubas wanted to keep Kerfoot, which is why the Wild had to be involved. Remember, it was a 3-way trade. The Wild gave up some cap space, I think, right?
For 8 months, we talked about Kerfoot as the odd man out, and he needs to go.
Also, let's throw this out there. Jake B. Leafs threw this out there, and I forgot about this. Add McCann to this because I think it was to protect Justin Hall more than anything.
Yes. So Kerfoot always gets dragged into that. It wasn't Kerfoot. It was Hall. So here's the way to look at it. The Leafs, the way to look at it is Jared McCann was never a Leaf.
No.
Even though he was.
I refuse.
Even though he was.
I refuse.
No, because the Penguins were going to lose Jared McCann, and they decided, well, we'd rather lose Chris Tanev. Nope. Brandon Tanev. So the Leafs had two options. We'd lose Justin Hall is option number one, or we lose a 7th round pick in Philip Hollander, which is what they ended up giving the Penguins for McCann. So there's this kid who, if he is going to be on your roster, it's going to be several years until he actually makes a significant impact, plus a 7th round pick, which is a tiny magic bean.
Yep.
Or a right-handed defenseman, which we don't really have in abundance.
Or what you could have done is what they should have done is do the trade anyway and leave Hall and Kerfoot unprotected.
I agree with you. But
that was never on the table
loves
for them.
His guys.
He loves his guys.
For Kyle, it was never on the table.
So then,
but wait though. So the recent Shanahan moves colors how I see everything now.
Okay.
Differently. Maybe what if Dubas hates Justin Hall with a fiery passion, and Brendan Shanahan's just like, Justin Hall is going to play for my goddamn hockey team, or I quit. He was Shanny's Federer Gediv.
And he kicks the entire MLSE board in the chest.
Yeah, right in the chest.
Sheldon Keefe also has a part of this because
he fucking plays them.
You don't have to play all of the guys when you have other guys as scratches. You know, there were so many defensemen in this Leafs organization that Sheldon Keefe could have played over Justin Hall.
So they left themselves. Okay, all of it comes back to not moving off of the core four when you receive new information. And the new information was the world stopped and the cap was remaining flat. They chose, listen, do we need Jared McCann? No, because we're strong at the center position. We spend all this money on Austin Matthews. We spend all this money on John Tavares. We're strong at this position, but we are painfully weak on the right side. So we have an option here. do we not weaken our already weak right side on defense, or do we hold, or do we potentially lose a guy like Kerfoot, but we already have such a weak left side? The money they spend on the core guys, I didn't have the biggest problem with at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think I did either.
Because they're the Leafs, they're going to spend to the cap, and the cap is going to go up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he planted his flag, or he. Now I can't say he anymore.
They.
Either Dubas or Shanahan or whatever, the collective, planted their flag. We're sticking with the core, even though we've received new information. This is what we're sticking with. And they were never able to win that little game of whack-a-mole. They were always an injury away from the whole house of cards crumbling.
Yes.
They lost Matthew Nyes and became a completely different team. A kid who they didn't have until like several games before the playoffs began.
Yeah,
and they couldn't bring up a goalie because they signed Matthew.
Yes. All being so right up against the cap because you're paying 4 guys so much money hurt the team.
It hurts your ability to move on things.
Yeah, they couldn't bring in any pieces that they really needed around the core to win. And then if you can't bring in the pieces and the core can't get it done, then it's all fucking not worth it.
So you need to look at every weird decision the Leafs have made over the last, I don't know, half decade under the core 4. Mm-hmm. And they wouldn't move off of them. And these are our guys. And having to stick with those guys, or choosing to stick with those guys, resulted in making some goofy friggin' decisions at other positions. Like, we went through the list of guys they didn't keep: Barabanov, Mikheyev, Hyman, who's the other guy? I'm forgetting. Mason Marchment,
Trevor Moore.
Trevor Moore is a great one. To a much, much, much lesser extent, Travis Dermott. I'm trying to think of the actual flubs, like just dumb decisions or just dumb trades. Like even the Kadri trade, they got a better package, and Kadri said no to the deal with Calgary. So what do you do, right? The handling of the McElhinney Sparks Pickard thing,
that was bad.
Mm-hmm.
I understood why he made the decision. He very clearly picked
loves
the
his
wrong
guy.
Well, yeah. Well,
and he loved Garrett Sparks. Won him the Calder Cup.
As the starter. Pickard was the backup. So do we assume Curtis McElhinney is going to continue to play the best hockey of his career in his mid-30s, or do we go with the kid who just won us the Calder?
And McElhinney went to Tampa and won cups.
And he went to Tampa and won cups. I'm sure he's really sad about it. It all comes back to the core 4, and you have to run your team weird, and you have to accept that you're going to have weaknesses, unless you're a god, unless you nail every draft pick, every free agent signing,
And they did pretty good, man.
He did pretty good
on those free agent signings, on the trades, like the nibbling around the edges. But you can't ask that core 4 to be what they're not.
But what was the illusion that Jimmy Vesey was going to score 30 goals for this team, and Spezza was going to throw up 50 points, and so was Wayne Simmons, and so was Joe Thornton, and
I think there was some tutelage there, but the older guys, Vesey not so much, but.
I'm not even criticizing those.
It just felt like they were skin grafting character to the roster because they weren't seeing it in the core 4 the way they needed to. Veteran guys, Thornton should have never been in the lineup. He was never good enough to be on the ice.
It's on the top line.
He stunk.
He
stunk,
guys.
He stunk. He had some good games.
I know. I
love Joe Thornton, man. I don't like saying this.
No, but it comes back to they had to experiment with that goofy shit. Because of the core 4. He was the worst top line player in the league.
And I don't...
Because he was at the end of his career.
I also don't fault Dubas for doing it, but it is time to look at something different. I don't fault him at all. I was right on board with it. You got to give it a shot.
It might not have even been his decision to keep the core together. We don't know.
Well, it might not have been.
We're never going to know, right? So it all comes back to the core. What we should be talking about, forget the candidates. Maybe we should be putting more into that Shanahan quote or not the Shanahan quote, sorry. The
report?
The CJ report that Shanahan spoke to the core players and they all got the impression they were coming back. That can't happen. Cap's going up by $1 million, I think we said last show. That can't happen. It's not an option. It's not an option to bring them all back. Unless you resign to the fact that next year we're going to see the same shit. Hopefully they have a good regular season. They're not going to be able to do much beyond that. And when the cap finally goes up, ideally in 2 years, then you can start actually planning for success.
Well, and here's a question. Kevin Papetti brought this up on Twitter. William Nylander is going to be 28 when his extension, whether it's with the Leafs or somebody else kicks in. It will likely be an 8-year extension. Okay, he could,
if that's what he wants.
He could do a 3-year, and then when the cap goes up, get another bonanza deal.
It would make more sense for him financially.
Well, but did the Leafs do that? A, so that's the first question. Number 2. Do the Leafs want to pay him till he's 35?
Well, and
so we're getting into that territory with this core now.
It's like in wrestling, they cheer for you to win the title, and then once it's on you, it's this cross you bear, and they don't like you anymore. I think part of the reason we like Nylander is he makes under $7 million.
Well, he's also shown up in the playoffs.
He has shown up in the playoffs,
you cannot deny Matthews and Marner in elimination games. All the elimination games, they have 0 goals.
They haven't done well, right? So
something's got to change there too. I'm not saying you have to get traded, but those two guys, you have to show up in elimination games. Look at who scored for Dallas last night.
Yeah,
Robertson, Pavelski,
Matthews, the core conversation, like Nylander needing a new deal and Matthews needing a new deal. You have to seriously consider moving off 1 or 2 of the core now, because it's not just the cap is going to go up. Their salary is going to go up too. Their cap hit is going to go up too. Nylander's
cap percentage may stay the same.
Maybe.
That's what I mean. And that means the number goes up, but the percentage stays the same.
We'll see. But Nylander is going to need an extension, and he's not taking less.
Nope.
Matthews is going to need an extension, and he's not taking less.
And he's also not going to do 8 years, ever.
Marner's got 2 years, 1 or 2 years. No, he's got 2 years left, but his no move kicks in.
Yeah.
You have to consider it. It all has to be on.
All 3 are very urgent. Like it's a July 1st or you're kind of stuck situation.
My belief is that
great time to fire your GM.
The Huberdeau Weegar Tkachuk trade it looks its worst right now. It looked good when it was made, and it will look good again after Calgary plays another year with a better head coach. And
Bill Zito bet hard on Tkachuk getting better, and he did.
And he did. But I also think that the Huberdeau Weegar side of it is still pretty valuable. Mm-hmm. And we had a head coach, and like you see Huberdeau on the bench say we never practiced the fucking power play.
I don't think Jonathan Huberdeau forgot how to play hockey.
That's what I'm saying, man. So if Tree Living is the guy, at least we know he can make a good trade, a bold trade,
a bold one. Right, and one where you could go, yeah, well, Tkachuk wanted out and blah blah blah. Like,
well, it's Tkachuk wanted out, and maybe one of the Leafs core 4 would look at it. Like maybe they're not asking for it, but maybe they're like, maybe it is time for a change of scenery. No one's talked about that. Do we know what any of them want to do? I know everybody's worried about Matthews, but like, what if Marner's like, I'd welcome a move. I'd look at a move. Maybe I'm tired of this shit too.
I mean, I sure got the impression he was tired of this shit by the end of the Panther series.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I have no doubt in my mind those guys are going to go somewhere else and they're going to find success.
They're too talented.
Because it's not about them not being talented players. It's just a matter of, hey, it's not working out with this roster here and this combo together. And when we look back on this Leafs era, I don't know, a couple of years from now, what we're going to have to see is like all these GM candidates that you're outlining here and the situation that the Leafs are in with the players and having to re-sign them. And it was a completely avoidable situation, and more criticism, I think, as we go through history should be leveled on Brendan Shanahan for putting the organization in this situation, because it was 100% avoidable. And it's like, okay, so the Leafs only have this certain amount of GM candidates, and we're looking at, and they're scrambling, and these are the only people available, so this is who they have to go with. That was entirely the actions of one individual who made them have to sit here in this entire mess.
What?
And one thing that's the Chris Johnston show is like the best show in the world right now. It's the best podcast
so
on
fucking
planet
good.
Earth right now.
After
And
banger after
one piece of information that CJ just he just tosses things out there, but they're huge.
You do have to stop him and go, wait, what?
Yeah,
Or is
because
it?
one thing he said that was just a sentence, and it was never elaborated on,
Just a little snap.
is because we were talking about how Kyle Dubas was fired. Some people don't want to admit that he was fired, but he was fired. And Chris framed it as this, because this is factual information that now we know. His contract ran through June 30th. Kyle Dubas's contract runs through the season of the NHL. That means he is employed with the Leafs until June 30th. He was let go and told don't return to the office anymore, even though he has time left on his contract. He was literally fired and told not to come in. There's no arguments about that anymore. We have confirmation. Thank you, CJ. And that firing is done by Brendan Shanahan, who now put the Leafs in this situation where they got to deal with this fucking roster that sucks right now, and the GM candidates who aren't there. And that's the situation they're in because of one dude.
That's what I wonder. Like when he was driving home, did he
Someone
ever
cut him
first?
off.
Did he? Yeah.
Show yourself.
I don't think he
Who
thought-
was the one
Did
who
he for
cut
a
him off?
second think if we move on from Dubas, who are the candidates? And that's what I wanted desperately for people to ask him at that press conference. Brendan, did you consider who's out there? Did you consider who is likely to be able to?
I don't think he did. I don't think
There's
he did.
no way he did.
No.
I think he made an emotional decision.
Yeah.
And why did the board back him on this? And apparently,
Thank you.
there was one of the triumvirate, right? There's three. There was one party who shall remain nameless that apparently, reportedly, really pushed for Dubas to be gone.
I want to know what the MLSE board does all day. I want to know, because we got that.
They go for some really nice dinners, man.
I bet they do on the company dime. And I want I want to know.
Say it.
No.
Say it.
I want to know. So we got that report. I think CJ talked about it, and I think Friedge talked about it. So two of the best insiders gone. Talked about Dubas wanting to streamline the way things are done, the way business is conducted with the Leafs. Because right now, it was Dubas has to go to Shanahan, who has to go to the board, who goes back to Shanahan. Well, they have to go amongst each other, right? And then it's got to go back to Shanahan, back to Dubas, who then has to call the necessary parties, And but it was just a very cumbersome process. Dubas tried to streamline it so that it wasn't as cumbersome. That's one way of phrasing it. The other way of phrasing it is cutting Brendan Shanahan out. And then all of a sudden, Shanahan has this appetite for, you know what, let's get rid of Kyle Dubas. Did no one on the board go, wait a second? He just wants to do this because he's forcing him out. Like, why didn't anyone on the board go, okay, I understand what Brendan is upset about. I understand what Dubas is upset about. How about we get together as adults and we solve this problem? Instead, they just did what every corporation does ever, and axed. That's all they do. They wake up in the morning,
Yep.
I axe people, go to bed, sleep like babies.
They say, oh, the budget looks better. I minus that salary.
Yeah. Shareholder number went up.
We did our job today.
Yeah.
All.
Yeah.
Dude, it's just not good. It's just like it all.
It's not
comes
good if
back
you're trying to win hockey games.
For corporations that don't like surprises, they sure did make a surprising move.
Yeah, surprise! There's no one at the helm with 5 weeks to go before the busiest season. By the way, I don't know if it's standard or not, but the general manager's contract expired June 30th. What are you, fucking new to this? This is your first season?
I think it's standard.
That's by law.
That's the
governance,
NHL calendar. it runs through
That
July 1
sucks!
to July 1.
That
fucking stinks.
No, but the reason they do that is because if a GM does get fired, they want them to be able to get a job before the summer's out.
Yeah, but it's screwing guys because you need permission to speak to this team, and
It's the same
There's
with,
no
like,
perfect way to do it. That's
Right.
the most.
I get it.
you have to
I guess
do it
you're right.
along the lines of the corporate calendar, unfortunately, or the league calendar. And that's just how we're like same with Treliving's contract. He's free agent come July 1st, and that's just how it has to
But
work.
you're not allowed to work in the draft, which I know is also that happens. It all comes back to we've had lots of conversations over and over and over again about Dubas's role in all this and his faults in this, Shanahan's role in this and his faults in this. It still feels like grown-ups could have got together and figured this out, and they didn't, and they left the team extremely
What do you always say
vulnerable.
about grown-ups?
They're fucking dumb.
No.
Oh, there are none.
There are no adults.
Yeah.
There are no.
The earlier you realize this, the better off you're going to be. You're going to be a lot more confident at work. You're going to be happier at home. There are no actual adults.
There's
None.
a moment when
Zero.
you're 18 and you turn into an adult and you're like, I don't feel anything.
Where's that switch? Where's
Yeah.
that switch? I've been waiting 15, 16 years for that. It hasn't happened.
And a couple years go by and you're like, all right, I feel a little bit more like a grown up, but like I'm still, I don't know. I feel like I'm cosplaying as a grown up. Well, here's my suit. Like, here's my credit card or whatever. Like you think if you turn 25, I can rent a car now. But then you get to around your mid 30s and you're like, oh fuck, there's just none.
Yeah.
And it's not just me projecting how I feel about myself. It's no, everyone's a little dumb.
You know what they say about,
There's massive gaps in all of our educations.
when you grow up and you realize your parents are just people. Like when they're like godly almost. Like, oh, they must be right. They're my parents.
Oh,
and then you grow up
you
and you
want-
realize they're people. You know what was a big one for me? When I realized my managers and their managers were just people.
Oh, well, there's that.
Right? Like the president of your company that you work for, just a person. Just a person. No smarter or dumber than you are. Just a person.
Mom and dad, if you're listening to this, I think you grow up and you're like, this wasn't fair, that wasn't fair, and here's how I would do it differently. And fuck, if you want to expedite that process, have a kid yourself
Oh.
and go, oh, I understand why they're
I
out
have
of their
become my
mind.
mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not better than them. I'm also
Just doing my fucking best. here.
Yeah. Just doing your best.
it sucks sleeping 2 hours at a time for months at a time. Okay,
Yeah.
I get it.
Now, so there's one thing I do want to say, and there was an article that Jonas Siegel put up on The Athletic, and it has to do with the reaction within the Leafs organization about Kyle Dubas' dismissal. Now, I want to say this. I don't fault Jonas for writing this piece at all, because it got a lot of play. It was a well-written article and really a creative angle. And but
Sometimes the most fun part of articles isn't even the article, it's the reaction to the article.
Yes, absolutely. And people are like, in what other market would this be a fucking story? Who cares what the rest of the organization thinks? And that's the joy of Toronto, is everything's a story. And this is no different.
Just don't read it then.
Somebody wrote, I'm in mourning right now. One person who worked in the front office with Dubas. It doesn't make any sense. That's why it's so disappointing. And there's a few other quotes in here, and I don't want to give all the juicy stuff away. People don't understand how much work he put in. They had it made with this guy. Well, these are all people that were hired by Kyle Dubas, and their disappointment's understandable. But I have never seen a GM get fired and then a piece like this get written. I almost I really respect it because I've never heard this.
No, usually it's a guy gets fired and then he spends the next couple of weeks picking knives out of his back.
Oh, the Paul Fenton article.
Oh,
Minnesota.
absolutely. And a lot of the worst Babcock stories with the Leafs we didn't hear until after he was fired. And that's how it usually works.
And Sutter, who is still mysteriously the coach. Is he the coach?
Yeah, it's usually
Is he still the coach?
Good riddance. Yep. Yes, he is.
Because Eric Francis wrote that there are people in the Flames organization who are afraid of him.
Yeah, I believe it.
Like,
Based on everything I've ever heard.
At least a really great compliment to Kyle Dubas is people are sad that he's not there anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and when Sutter, if Sutter goes, he's not going to get this. Oh, I'm in mourning. It's just going to be shiv.
Yeah.
That dude is going to get shanked so bad on his way out. That's why this Dubas article is actually kind of interesting, This does not typically happen.
Well, and I think that's why Jonas wrote it. It's
Yes.
it's a unique situation. And again, something that shouldn't have happened. I don't know. Like there's a very good chance that next week we know who the new GM is.
Can I read a portion of it?
Please. All of it, actually. Read it all verbatim.
I'm going to screen cap it all and send it out and
Suck
not
it,
link
Jonas.
to it and say, hey,
Suck it.
fuck your $2.99 that you couldn't spend.
Can you believe this shit followed by at least 800 words?
To at least one person who works for the Leafs this past season felt like the first time when everybody in the organization was pulling in the same direction. It was about their shared mission, of course, of trying to win the Stanley Cup. But it was also about Dubas. Everyone knew he was in the last year of his deal. And though everything appeared the same on the outside with Dubas, that he was treating the job exactly as he had before, they knew as well as he did that his job was literally on the line, even if they assumed he would be back after the Leafs' first-round win over Tampa.
So basically, everyone was working their hardest in order to not just win, but keep this guy employed. Like the stakes were just higher. Every year you're trying to win. But the
this
stakes were
year,
higher this season.
It's even higher because Kyle Dubas needs a contract.
Which means the stakes are lower this season and they're not going to try as hard and the team's going to stink.
I don't know. I thought that was an interesting tidbit.
It is.
Little touch there by Siegel. It's a great article. I encourage everybody to go read it if you're interested in Leafs drama. It's fascinating.
I read 75 words in a screenshot. I'm done. I think I got the gist. Twitter should just be called Yuck. It's because it's just where you go to say yuck. And it's what I do too, but like, well, I don't know. Can we acknowledge that there is some good content out there and we don't have to yuck everything after 75 fucking words?
I've been noticing something because when I'm prepping for Virgin Radio, there's a couple of sites that I use, and one of them is Daily Hive.
STPN.ca.
Daily Hive I use all the time. BlogTO I use all the time for great local sort of news. But they're both owned by the same company, and just like BuzzFeed, they have a strategy, and it's a little part of their strategy is outrage porn. And you can tell how Twitter has affected publications because it's like blank, blank, blank about Toronto that's changing and people are upset. At least once a day, there will be a headline and people are upset. And people are like, well, fuck, I got to click on that. Maybe I'll be upset too. And I feel like that's what a little bit is going on here with Dubas is like people are upset. Oh, fuck, I should be upset too. And it's like, let's move past this now. GMs move on all the time. Yeah. We're going to be okay. And listen, the ethos that got the Leafs to this point predates Kyle Dubas getting here. It started with Leiweke and Shanahan. So if that ethos is to continue, at very least, you're going to see a very good regular season team.
So it's funny because in this article, it's funny you say that, they reference the process not being in place pre-Dubas. So Siegel writes, that didn't exist in the pre-Dubas era. There was no process in place, an organization-wide way of doing things that trickled down from the top into every corner of the organization. Information was more siloed in the Lamoriello days.
Well, that's not surprising.
After Dubas became GM, that changed. Staff members from the research and development departments started attending practice regularly. The dress code was relaxed. Players and staff were free to sport facial hair and felt more comfortable being themselves.
And question for you. How many playoff series did they win?
One.
So how much help did it have?
Imagine.
This is not a lot.
That's such a Glengarry Glen Ross way of looking at it. Like, all right,
Sometimes
you were all happy you're going to work, but you didn't win.
Yeah.
That's so tough. But
like, look at would you not be happier if you were like the Islanders and you made it to the conference finals a couple of the last 5 years?
Also, think about and
I know they didn't do great this year, but come on.
Think of how wild it must be to imagine working at the Leafs for the last 10 years. Let's say you went under first of all, you started with the Bruins 2013. Blow that series in the third period. Mm-hmm. Then you're under. You just got there. Brian Burke has just been fired. Mm-hmm. You're under Dave Nonis.
This should be a video game RPG.
Yeah, who very shortly after leads the Leafs into some of the darkest years of the franchise, and they suck. And then he eventually gets fired. So now there's no one really at the helm, even though there's the Shanahan plan and everything. There's no one really at the helm. Then you go from being dog shit and being an abject chaos to Lou Lamoriello. You go from never knowing what any day is going to look like to having the most anal person the sport has ever seen. You will wear a suit in every situation. If I see a 5 o'clock shadow, you better bring your razor to work. X and Y and Z. And then you go from that to Dubas, whose image was like cool youth pastor.
That's so true.
Hey guys, I have an idea for a trade, and I wrote a song about it. We need to expose the market inefficiency of smaller forwards on the wings. Like
That's how this reads.
yeah,
Cool youth pastor.
yeah.
That is perfect. What you just said there, and especially of course, under Lou Lamoriello. Tell the story about Lou Lamoriello on the phone lines.
This
is the change, but of course things relaxed under when Lou Lamoriello leaves a city, everything relaxes no matter what city he leaves.
Yeah, like we never did get the real. I don't know if this story is true, but supposedly,
Are you allowed to tell this one?
I don't know.
Have you told it before?
No, you can tell this
we
story.
have.
You have told the story.
Yeah. Okay.
think we have.
Tell the
We
story.
have. Okay.
So I don't know if I'm allowed to tell it, but I'm pretty sure I've already done
What
it.
would really happen?
Lou might have him killed.
Yeah, he's gonna have to go out and get size 11 and a half concrete galoshes.
Tell the story.
So I have a wide foot. Supposedly one of the first things he did when he joined the Leafs is Lou is like, I need secure phone lines.
As an
And-
untappable.
Like
an
Tony
untappable.
Soprano.
Yeah, and everyone's like, what? Like, what is that? And basically they went out and like did a bunch of research and they're like, all right, let's go find some like untappable phone lines. And in their research, they discovered that's not a thing. So all they did was they replaced his landline, the phone cord on his landline with a red one. And they were like, sir, your new secure landline is in place. And Lou was like, thank you. That's amazing. Now, who knows if that's true?
Right. We don't know.
It feels way too good to be true.
I ran that by somebody at MLSE, and they said that sounds about right.
We're pretty sure it's true.
Yeah. And then,
Cool youth pastor.
you know what?
Unbelievable.
How about
we should- I
we
wanna-
don't do anything over landline. We do everything. Bling.
We should check if we could check
My,
Kyle Dubas's office and see if that red cord is still there.
Oh, no, his
Oh.
office is at the Ford Performance Center, as Shanahan pointed
Was
out.
Lou's not there as well? No, Lou's was in.
No, his
Scotiabank.
was
Yeah?
in Scotiabank.
Oh, okay.
I know that for sure. And I'll tell you,
Yeah, 'cause he used to come in and out of there at that time.
yeah, I ran into Mike Babcock several times, and he said, "Oh, excuse me," once because he was going for a run. I said, "Oh, apologies, He said, no problem." Then he went for a run.
Yeah.
But
he
the
dumped coconut water on you.
yeah,
And
oil.
oil.
Yeah.
Oil.
He got
little-
lubed up.
That's a
Lube me
little
up,
bit more
baby.
day ruining.
I want
That's
you,
not all. I'll let this dry off. That's, hey, fuck your shirt forever.
Adam. I want you to write a list of the best and worst coconut oils, and I want you to share it with the room.
Yeah. Best and worst campfire songs Kyle wrote.
You didn't run into Lou though?
I did pass Lou in the hall, and I
Okay.
ran into Shanny a couple times as well.
Did you
and
have
he
that
was really
bullshit
nice.
stubble?
What's that?
Did you have that bullshit stubble?
No. I was on TV too. Remember, at breakfast television, I wasn't allowed to have
no beards.
any facial hair. And
Right.
this hair that I have right now would have been considered too long. No
Oh, yeah.
beards, short hair. And you had to, if you weren't wearing a tie, that was fine, but you had to have a jacket on. Had to have a jacket, had to have a collared shirt. I think that's since been relaxed.
Do you think when Dubas had meetings with all his staff, he addressed them while standing on a table?
No, he sits on the chair backwards.
Sits on the all right. Well,
No,
can't do it. These
there's
have
handles
arms.
on it.
Yeah, he's Captain America. having
Okay,
a frank
Adam's gonna
conversation.
try. There you go.
Yeah. Here's the thing about God.
Yeah,
God is David Comp for 1.5 million over 2 years. That's God. You know, like God isn't all this other stuff.
Do you think everybody got on a desk one day and was like, "Oh, Captain, my Captain"?
Yeah.
Oh my
Just
god.
doing the podcast like this.
Oh,
like,
yeah, Adam's going.
you know, guys, I just feel like, you know how they always have that awkward lean into?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I, Now you see
like
my
we can
Crocs.
look back at it now because his time in Toronto's over, but like I liked a lot of what he did.
I loved what he did.
But after Jake Muzzin got injured before the COVID outbreak, and Travis Dermott's like your number one friggin' left-sided option, when Dubas posted the parable of the Chinese farmer, I was just like, Kyle, that's fucking enough. Jesus. That's enough.
Oh man, if you're that process driven, you're exhausting. And I would tell him that. Like at some point, please show some emotion.
Well, but
then
it's
he
funny
does.
though. It's funny though because it was necessary because I'm sure every fan was like, "Oh no, we don't have Riley or Muzzin. We're fucked." And I'm sure everyone in the organization thought, "Oh my God, we don't have Muzzin. There's no point in even playing the games." And Dubas, goes, "You know what? I saw a YouTube video for just such an occasion."
And then
He
COVID
tweeted
was like,
it out.
COVID's like, you think you're fucked?
You think there's a game tomorrow? Maybe.
Yeah.
It's so weird how, Adam, you have the trump card in the whole discussion, and you just ask him, like, what did you win?
And I hate to boil it down to that, but isn't that what sports are?
Yeah. No, I'm 100% on board with you.
And I don't want to take away from the things that he did or the things that Lou did, even though Lou made some really shitty moves. Holy fuck. Like Kyle spent 18 months undoing the bullshit moves that Lou made. Like the Zaitsev shit and that, you know what I mean? Like, holy shit. But never forget that Lou traded David Clarkson's contract and Dion Phaneuf's. And I think I want to say this. I think that the Leafs are in a better spot than we've seen them in our entire lifetime, and that includes the Cliff Fletcher's year when Cliff was on fire in the early 90s and making all those bonanza crazy ass trades. I think the Leafs now are in an amazing spot, so I never want to take away from what Kyle did. I will forever wonder if this was the year that he moved off of that. I will forever wonder what he would have done.
Here's what we can't have, because you actually brought up a great point with Dubas undoing Lou's move. We can't have a guy, whether you like the job Dubas did or not, we can't have a guy come in who's completely different. Because what happens with that is you screw everything up.
Yeah, that takes years to get that team that this guy wants to build into this organization.
Dave Nonis was Brian Burke's right-hand man, and it turns out he disagreed with a big old bunch of the decisions Brian Burke made.
And he was wrong.
Burke was
Swing and a
en
miss.
route. He was en route to building the team he wanted. The last move he did was Shen for JVR.
Great move.
And it was the best move he ever made.
And that Grabowski deal would have worked out pretty well too
Yeah.
if fucking Nonis hadn't bought it out.
Brian Burke got
Wrong.
fired before he could complete the job.
Yeah.
And that was another one in one of MLSE's greatest friggin' hits, where that was the lockout shortened season. The season was to begin in January, and like 2 weeks before the season began, they fired their GM. First time
Out of
like,
nowhere.
Like, act like you fucking
And-
are in the sports
And
business.
it's because they didn't like him.
Because they didn't like him. You
Yeah.
fucked the team right before the season.
Right.
You also know what you're getting when you have Brian Burke. Like, you signed up for this.
Yeah.
You
If you don't,
signed up for
that's
Canada's jerk.
That's him, and he's not changing for anybody.
Yes.
Just fucking let him do his
Well,
job.
they didn't sign up for him. That was the problem. It was the pension plan that
Yeah.
did.
Well,
and
and then-
I want to say this too on that track. The one thing the Leafs did after that season, where they did make the playoffs in the lockout shortened year with Nonis as GM, was what did they do? What was their first move?
With Nonis as GM?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
the first move, like after that season, was to go out and get a goaltender. And I think
they went out and got Jonathan Bernier.
and that was the wrong move. But I think Burke's next move was to get a goaltender. I think he would have done it sooner. And I think he was a big Reimer guy. And I think it would have been tandem with Reimer. And I don't think it would have been Bernier. I really like. Listen, Brian Burke made some really stupid, boneheaded decisions, and he was living in the past with the Anaheim team that won. The Leafs just did not have any talent close to what the Anaheim team had. But I do think it would have been less of a shit show in those first few years. Like, I think it would have been less of a terrible transition.
So there was Nonis comes in and he buys out Grabowski and he just tears down the team that Brian Burke built, and they went in a completely different direction, and that team was dog shit and was very quickly disassembled. Lou Lamoriello comes in. He does some really good things. he does some really bad things. More good things than bad things. But the bad things kind of screw up the good things.
Yep.
So they hired Dubas, and he spends basically his first year or two undoing the bad things. And I just remember the way the Zaitsev for CC deal was sold to me was, well, it's 1 year. I'm like, it's 1 year. So we're just going to sit in this filth all season long in this shitty, very shitty situation all year long. And that was the worst year they had under Kyle. It was the worst season they had.
Well,
under
and
Kyle.
then, no, and to be fair, they didn't have to play Cody CC with Morgan Riley the entire year.
They didn't even have to keep him.
No.
They could have flipped him.
Yeah.
But
they
they're
could've
like,
just-
no. The referendum on Cody. Oh,
Yeah. That whole year was like an FU. Cody Cece's good.
it was gaslighting.
Oh,
Yeah.
is what
it was
it was.
disrespectful.
Dude, he was horrible.
Every GM and every
Horrible.
coach are going to have players that they love that you hate. Everybody, like I remember like when Vancouver was really good, it was Mason Raymond, who came to Toronto, had a great year, and then signed a 3-year deal in Calgary. And it was really because Mason Raymond got fucking body checked from behind and snapped his back in half.
That was kind of bad.
But so you're going to have that, and the next GM will have that. Well, it'll be Shanny that has that. But I do think there was frustrating moments with Dubas, far more good than bad. Put the organization in a good spot. And what I would say to the people in the article that Jonas is quoting is, just because a new guy's coming in doesn't mean all that has to change. Kyle set all that up.
Yep.
He got rid of the silos that were there under Lou Lamoriello. He had the top-down thing. You know who was also a part of putting that together? Brendan Shanahan.
Yeah.
And listen, Shanahan might have driven a Mack truck over Kyle Dubas's grave at that press conference. That was a shanking. The more I look back at that press conference, the more he was like, wow, that was a public execution. However,
The blue wedding.
they did do that together.
Yeah. Also, like, you're still there. You still work at MLSE and you care about the crest, the Leafs logo, and the organization, and keep up what Kyle Dubas started. If you believe in like the message and the process that he put in place there, keep working at that.
Maybe the real Kyle Dubas was the lessons we learned along the way.
last-
I wrote a song about that. Ba-da-ling.
That's an all-timer. The last thing I think we should mention about Dubas is the other news CJ broke is that according to his source, it looks like it's a 90% probability that he signs in Pittsburgh and is the president.
Guys, it's 99.9%. The only reason they haven't signed yet is the lawyers haven't looked at the contract. This has been, I'm telling you, tinfoil hat, this has been coming since February. He knew this was coming.
So I said that a bird told me Bergevin as GM and Chayka as president in Pittsburgh. Dubas changed all that. So it's basically going to be him.
I wonder if John Chayka's name pops up in Toronto.
You're getting warmer.
Oh, interesting.
And Bergevin, I don't ever read.
I'm throwing this in as a last minute thing too before we wrap this show. Remember I brought up on the last show how Dubas's agent is a part of the same group that represents Austin Matthews?
Yes.
So Frank Saravalli actually checked in on this for Daily Faceoff, and the NHLPA has had several complaints about this. It's in the so Kyle Dubas's actual agent actually usually handles golfers.
Chris Armstrong.
Yeah, Chris Armstrong usually handles professional golfers, but they both went to Brock University. I don't know if they went together. And
They should just rename it Kyle Dubas University.
they should, yeah.
I went to Brock Sports Management. So does everyone I know.
The union rules say that reps for a company that handle players are prohibited from taking management clients. That's coaches and general managers. So reps that handle players are prohibited from taking clients. Now, I wonder if the way around this was, we only handle golf players. But even so, for an agent to be certified in the NHL, they have to agree to these terms. And I wonder, is Chris Armstrong certified to be a player agent in the NHL? Likely not. So maybe that's the way around.
The sticking point is the agency itself.
Yes, and we still don't have any clarity on that.
Yeah. Can the agency employ two agents that employ agents that work with NHL players, as well as somebody who isn't an NHL agent but is working with a general manager? And there's question marks on that.
So, okay, I went to Puckpedia and I selected a Wasserman agent at random.
Yeah, there's lots of them.
Right? So let's go Evan Bouchard. He's represented by David Gagne of Wasserman. And let's say he tried to force his way out of Edmonton. This is a completely fabricated scenario. Let's say Bouchard tried to force his way out of Edmonton and he wanted to go to Toronto. I think people might have a problem with that. And they might go, well, the GM in Toronto is represented by Wasserman, and now a Wasserman client is trying to force his way to that GM's team. I could see how that would be an enormous...
It's also just like, even if that's a conflict of interest, it's written down that you can't do it. Like people are like, oh, they're investigating this thing for no reason. No, they're investigating it because there are rules that the NHL does write down from time to time. And one of the rules is you can't employ agents who are working on both the GM side and the player side. Is that
the rule though?
It's
I know that the agent can't. Yes. But can you employ a coach agent and a player agent under the same banner?
So that's what we just need the clarity on is it the entire agency that can't do it, or is it just the one agent himself? And we're going to get a definitive answer on that because it's written down black and white. I just don't have the coach's agent CBA in front of me.
Penguins fans, here's an early assessment of Kyle Dubas because you're going to want to know what he did good, what he did bad. There's a guy who is going to bend the rules. There was the flying prospects in on the Leafs dime.
Having people work out in the summer, use the Leafs facilities.
Having people use the Leafs facilities in the summer. Having the Leafs fly out 2 hours early on Christmas or Boxing Day, whatever it was. And now having an agent from Wasserman. So there's a guy who's going to bend the rules. And you might say, well, that doesn't bother me because everyone bends the rules. You're right. But they really, really, really care when this guy bends the rules.
Yeah.
And when he bends the rules in Pittsburgh, teams are going to be up your ass.
Yeah.
They're going to be, I don't know what major crime Dubas committed other than being under 45, but people hate this dude and they are up his ass about everything.
Here's the wording from the NHLPA certified agent regulations. And now this is the question mark. Is this ruling apply to in the entire agency or just the agents as themselves? Agents are prohibited from representing provided services to either directly or indirectly engaging in or proposing to engage in business ventures with any officer, employee, or independent contractor of an NHL club, other professional hockey league club, or Canadian Major Junior Hockey Club, or any other entity affiliated with any of the foregoing, including but not limited to coaches, general managers, scouts, and locker room personnel.
I fucking hate jargon. What does that mean?
Which means if you are an NHLPA certified agent, you can only represent NHL players.
But this guy only represents golfers.
But he is not an NHL. He is not an NHL certified agent. But does this apply to the agency itself? That is the only question mark in this whole thing, and we'll find out what they determine.
It's messy. So Matthews keeps getting brought up. He's the big one. There are other
McDavid, I think, is a Wasserman client, is he not?
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah,
the big agents.
The Leafs have 4 guys other than Matthews who are Wasserman clients. I got it wrong yesterday on Twitter. So Sam Lafferty is on the roster. Prospect Mikko Kokkonen, prospect William Villeneuve, and Mac Hollowell are all Wasserman clients. So they got 5 guys.
Like the burger.
Like the burger.
Delicious.
Fries in the bag.
Top 5 favorite burger places. 5 guys.
I don't remember.
Wendy's is up there.
Wendy's is my favorite.
Wendy's is good.
Yeah.
Wendy's is my...
And that's not just because they pay you to say that.
No, well, they don't anymore. But I
see what he said?
They don't anymore. Contract with them for a year.
You know what I haven't
love
had
Wendy's
in forever? And they used to have one in the zoo? Harvey's.
Harvey's is good, but it's not my favorite.
It's pretty good.
I like Harvey's. I didn't say I didn't like it.
Harvey's is really good at making their burgers. You know? Like, do you know what I mean?
Almost got their slogan.
What
Harvey's makes your hamburger A beautiful thing.
Like, I feel like the Harvey's employees who grill the burgers are really good at it.
They are.
You know,
They are.
they're talented.
I like a JBC, man. To me, the junior bacon cheeseburger is the perfect burger because it's not huge. It's not overwhelming with a whole bunch of different... Like, the thing with burgers now is everybody wants to put 40 different topics on them. The best burgers are simple. They have a little bit of crunch. They have a little bit of cheese. They have the great thing of meat, fresh tomato, and whatever toppings you want on it. That is the perfect burger and you should be able to hold it with one hand.
Who popularized the egg?
Oh,
I don't mind that, but it's so heavy.
Hi, can I have a bunch of sticky yellow shit that's going to go all down my wrist?
yeah, because it's not like scrambled eggs. It's a fucking half-cooked egg that's
Yeah,
going to
why don't
melt
they cook
everywhere.
the whole fucking egg too, man?
Hi,
I like poached eggs on their own.
I brought 2 shirts to work and I want to change.
Do you have a song about that?
Bling.
Anyway.
This one's about not folklore. Do. It's about yoke lore.
Oh.
That's my little joke. 1, 2, 3. And
Jesse, wrap it up.
I'm going to wrap it up by giving you this little tidbit about Dave Nonis.
Okay.
So, Steve, I don't know if you know this, but back in 2013, September, Dave Nonis traded a 4th-round pick to the Calgary Flames. No, he acquired a 4th-round pick from the Calgary Flames in exchange for Joel Colborne. Yeah. He then used that 4th-round pick to give it to the St. Louis Blues, and he also sent Carl Gunnarsson to St. Louis, and he got back Roman Polak.
Oh, I remember that.
that's a terrible trade.
Do you know who the St. Louis Blues selected with that 4th-round pick?
I do, Jesse.
Who was it?
Billy
Uso!
motherfucking Uso.
With a Leafs draft pick! Well, kind of.
Sort of.
Sort of.
A little bit.
That was
Not
kind
really.
of funny.
Oh, my God.
The Steve Dangle Podcast.
Powered by Sports Interaction. Want to bet?
Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.